It's recording.
All right, here goes the intro, nerds.
That's a last known photo if I've ever seen one.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another Mother Boy episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 332, recorded on Thursday, August 12th, 2021. Tonight, we will finally be discussing the original Friday the 13th from 1980. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from my immediate right, we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up?
You know, you're beautiful when you're in person, sweetheart.
God, I'm so glad that I can feel your warmth.
I know, man. You touched my skin earlier, and I still remember.
With my tongue. It was real salty.
You know, I bring the pork. I bring it.
God damn. Last but not least, calling in from Randy's immediate right, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up, bitch, you boy? Mother stains.
Mother stains. I always like to envision what the stains are coming from, but it's usually gross.
Guys, the boys are back.
The boys are back in town.
Oh, the boys are back. The boys are back. Whoa.
And we drinking.
Yeah. Oh, we might be a little twisted.
It's probably obvious already,
Yes.
but in case you're wondering, yes, we have been drinking.
We drinking.
The boys are back.
We just did a live watch with the squad on YouTube. Watch Friday the 13th. First time we ever did anything quite like that. It was a good time. Thanks for hanging out if you were able to make it. Also, we're going to be kicking this episode off with a shot of Old Forester. Shouts outs to Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, for sending us some nice whiskeys. If we all mysteriously die, it's because Nicole poisoned us.
Poisoned
with
this
these.
shit.
It's
Yeah,
not much
we
of
are.
a. It will be recorded.
She requested that we drink this, and we are all together again, and here we are.
That is
Yeah.
rare. So
Yeah.
we got to
Quite
drink
rare.
it now.
There you go.
Yeah.
To
We're
Nicole,
To Nicole of the Light and Shadow podcast.
Light and Shadow podcast.
formerly Chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro.
Yeah.
Check it out. Thanks
Thank
for the
you,
whiskey.
Nicole.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I wish I didn't have a cut on my lip.
Mm.
Woo.
That's quite good.
It's that's
Oh,
exceedingly
burn.
drinkable. Yeah.
It has a burn. I found it.
I like the
Mm.
warmth at the end. It's got an extra little kick. That's one of Nicole's favorites. That's why she sent it to us.
yeah.
She collects whiskeys and bourbons.
That is going to put hair on my chest.
I am going to
finally.
slur.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
of
washing
this.
down the whiskey with some
Whiskey.
more whiskey.
I will do the same.
So
Cheers.
that's how this show is going to go. Thank you again, Nicole. Check out Light and Shadow podcast. It's great. If you like us, you'll like her because she's smarter.
And you'll probably like her even if you don't like us.
Probably,
Because
yeah.
let's be real. She's more likable.
Let's tackle some housekeeping real quick before we get into the main event. Here's another reminder. We have our September poll pick currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this September. The theme is Halloween parties, and the three movies you can vote between are Casper, The Guest, and Night of the Demon.
Bob, how those numbers looking?
Bob! How are those numbers?
Man,
looking?
I won. Such a high pitch to you. Night of the Demons in first place, followed by Casper, followed by The Guest.
Closely
shit.
followed by Casper, Bob.
Night of the
It's-
Demons is still in the lead.
It's not like close, but Casper is gaining some momentum.
Casper
Yeah,
is gaining some momentum, people.
Okay.
that is definitely what I
That's
said.
that you
yes.
audibly heard the reframing of the stats right
It's
there.
chugging
That's what
along.
we are inside of the spin zone right
I
now.
think Casper is coming from behind, is what you're trying to say, Bob.
Well, I mean, you would have to.
Do you guys remember watching that like weird cartoon?
Don't
on
you dare say
Sasper?
Oh, yeah.
It's on
It's
YouTube.
dated. I'm gonna put that out
It's,
there.
it's not the.
It does not hold up to scrutiny today.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't remember exactly.
Probably, Bob.
The only thing I remember is he talks about a childo, which I thought was
Well, the
Oh,
word
okay.
childo is you know
We just lost.
unimpeachably funny.
We just lost all of our funding on YouTube. Thanks, Bob.
Well, yeah. Demonetized.
indiscretions of youths with access to flash animation.
Well, luckily for everybody listening, we're not going to review Sasper. We might review Casper. Make sure to get your votes in.
or Night of the Demons.
Or Night of the Demons. Probably not The Guest. Apparently nobody fucking wants to talk about that movie.
Well, look,
even
man,
though it's so fucking
you know what?
good.
I will say all three of these choices
They're
are
great.
pretty.
They're good choices.
Yeah, they're bangers.
Night of the Demons, we have tried to get, or we put in a poll pick at least 2 times.
At
at
least
It's
least.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
crazy.
true.
And The Guest, this is at least the second time The Guest.
Yeah,
has
I
been
know.
on.
And I don't
That's
think
true.
I don't know if Casper's been.
The only time I think Casper might have been on is when we did Hocus Pocus because we were doing like kids tour.
That's possible. Yeah.
But I can't
I don't
confirm
think that's the case though, because I make the
I don't think
graphics
so.
and I
Yeah.
don't remember
I don't
making
think so.
Okay.
We could go back and look, but we're not going to do that right now.
Not now.
Make sure you get your votes in before the end of August. We'll see what we're talking about this September. In other Patreon news, we do have a brand new Patreon supporter. We got to give mad shouts
Oh,
outs to. Big thanks to Wes W for
Wes.
signing up and showing us some love on Patreon. We really appreciate it. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. And as is tradition around these parts, we owe Wes the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Wes.
Slap me
Mm.
in the ass.
I would like you to slap
Wes.
me inside of the ass like so.
Get in there, Wes. Is that our boy?
Goddamn.
That's our boy,
I
right?
think this is a new West.
This is a different Wes.
this is yeah, not 1 a.m. West, but
Oh wow.
Wow.
but
Do
just
we have
indeterminate
just
time
West.
of the
We
day.
have competing Wes's.
Yeah,
Which
they're
West
gonna have
will-
to battle to the death.
Which Wes will come out on top? We'll never know.
We will never know.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you, thank you. We really do
Cheers.
appreciate it. In other news, Let's Get Physical Media podcast is dropping a bonus episode.
Oh my God!
A bone ass?
A bone ass episode this Friday the 13th. You're going to be able to listen to Mikey and I's commentary on Friday the 13th, part 2, everywhere you get your
Bob, are you
podcasts.
trying to compete with us or something?
Yeah, I am-
What's happening?
I'm
here?
competing with
What's
myself.
happening?
I'm not
here?
so happy with your mixed priorities here, bud.
Bob,
All I
mean,
do is
really?
win.
Are you just trying to steal our ideas?
No matter
over
what.
Here?
You ready to start the coup?
Dude, the coup is
Coup's
happening.
on.
You're starting the coup.
I'm starting the coup.
Hang on, Mr. Coup.
Check out Let's Get Physical Media podcast everywhere you get your podcasts. That's all I got. You guys have anything you got to mention?
I guess just to reiterate, if you check us out on youtube.com/straight chilling podcast, this is something we've never done before, but we did do a live stream. If you're curious how the boys watch movies together, also we were joined by some special guests of our boy Corey and the lovely Alice.
Shouts
We
Alice.
chat on some za, had some drinks, and watched Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
You can see how we do it.
Our method includes a lot of chatter about unrelated film.
How do we do it? We barely pay attention.
Yeah,
that's how we
That's
do it.
how it's done.
Shouts outs to our boy Corey, who is here right now taking shots of us.
He's under the table.
Taking a shot.
live recording this shit. He's making
Nah.
us look good, like we know what we're doing.
He's just taking shots.
he's
He's doing everything he can to cover my double chin, right?
we're begging him
Right.
not to drink all of the
Photoshop
memorial.
me into a teardrop.
Into a teardrop.
I don't know.
I don't have any idea what that could possibly
He
mean.
knows. It's lingo.
Yeah, check that
I
out
think you're
on
stroking out.
YouTube.
Big stroke.
I think our house is
I can't play the bump.
clean.
Bob, you're on bump duty this
Bob's
week.
on bump duty.
I'm on-
Bob's bump
We've just
on
been rotating the
duty.
bump duty.
I know.
It's
You're
time to
about
get.
to see what it's like to have somebody who cares about when you play a bump.
Wow.
Fucking lame.
It's
Who
time.
did it best? Hashtag Sochi.
Oh my God. We're getting into the main event. We're talking about Friday the 13th, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
Are you gonna use the real box this
I
time?
have the box in my
Thank
hand.
you, God.
Oh my god.
Is it blue?
We're finally
Bob?
no longer
Is that
frauds.
Yes, I have the Friday the 13th box set that was put out by Scream Factory last year, which does have the uncut version of Friday the 13th. That's what we watched. That's what we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
So Friday the 13th came out in 1980, runtime of 1 hour and 35 minutes, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, written by Victor Miller, stars Betsy Palmer, Adrian King, Janine Taylor, some other folks. Plot synopsis is as follows. Terror and suspense abound in this 24-hour nightmare of blood. Camp Crystal Lake has been shuttered for over 20 years due to several vicious and unsolved murders. The camp's new owner and 7 young counselors are readying the property for reopening despite warnings of a, quote, death curse by the local residents. The curse proves true on Friday the 13th as one by one each of the counselors is stalked by a violent killer. This film is widely acclaimed for its horrifying and creative murder sequences. Gentlemen, had you seen Friday the 13th before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
And this is almost a silly question. So this is a seminal horror film that is really almost synonymous with the idea of horror films in most non-horror fans' minds, I feel like, to this day. At least this franchise. It's one of several, but it is certainly one. And I think, yeah, so I've seen it, yes. I've seen it many, many times. I saw it probably for the first time when I was like maybe 11 or 12, or too early, maybe, some would argue. Not for me. And yes, I would absolutely recommend it if you have even the passing interest in horror, which you're listening to us, so I have to assume if you haven't seen this, you're missing a trick pretty hard. You got to watch this movie.
Juice.
Yeah, I absolutely would recommend people check this out. It's a little bittersweet watching it today because I know it's set in like June and it is a big time summer horror film. One of my favorites to watch in the summer. I think it's one of the most iconic summer camp films. You know, there's some popular ones, but I think this one sets that stage, like Randy was saying before. Also, too, I think it's funny because I think Jason is one of the biggest horror icons, especially like to people who don't even enjoy horror, and yet that icon is not in this film. But I like, so I don't know. I think it's
I tried.
what?
Yeah, I tried.
Spoiling
Spoiler
everything.
warning has not dropped yet.
Oh, well, I mean, the fact that that icon is not in this movie isn't a huge spoiler.
It's
That-
a significant.
So the
spoiler.
hockey mask Jason
That's
is not
literally
in
a
this
piece
movie.
of trivia.
True.
people use.
Continue.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Continue.
I would recommend we're watching it at the end of summer. So to me, it's almost like this is to me like the staple. Like
Yeah.
this is the nail in the coffin. It's the end of summer. You gotta watch it for summer horror. This is one of the best. Just watch it. if
It's
you
like
haven't.
that and Jaws are like the summer horrors.
Yeah. And normally I think what's kind of like a little kind of I'm not huge on summer, but normally I watch it toward the beginning of summer. It
Yeah.
is set in June and that's what feels like summer. But now we are heading into spooky season. It's almost like bye summer, so it's like, oh, this season is done. This
Yeah.
type of horror is done. But it was nice to
You
kind
can
of
finally stop pretending.
end it that way. Yeah. So
Tight.
Bob,
Yes.
would you recommend the OG Friday the 13th?
Yes. Yes, I would. This is like required viewing as a horror fan. You owe it to yourself to watch this. It's a staple. It's really what like built the summer camp slasher movie that everybody is so familiar with. And they made like endless copies of this, ironically, because this was just a copy of Halloween and some other stuff. But yeah, when it comes to like summer horror, it's like, Return of the Living Dead, Jaws, Sleepaway Camp, and Friday the 13th. Those are the ones for me that come to mind. So
Definitely
you gotta
Sleepaway
watch.
Camp.
Well, Sleepaway Camp
definitely,
being such
definitely.
a rip on this and being still kind of an underground hit. It's like it's
Yeah.
the cult version of the other two, but
Yeah.
to me, they're all three required as well.
Yeah, you got to watch these movies. I've seen it several times. I feel like that's not surprising to anybody. But yeah, watch this movie if you haven't
I don't know
already.
if
Sorry,
you need this,
Justin
if you
ruined
need
it.
us to recommend that to you, I don't know how the hell you stumbled on this podcast.
That's true.
There's-
We got
We're
a lot of
this is a
youngins out
formality
there,
at
you
this
know?
point.
Also, there's so many movies, it's impossible to see everything. So, who knows?
It's possible. I'm just saying, like, you don't need us to tell you for the most
Right.
part.
Yeah. Slam your eyeballs into it. That's a solid recommend from the Straight Chilling crew. Now we're going to drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Here we go. All righty. I do have the plot synopsis
Thank
typed up.
God,
Thank Christ.
Bob. Let's hear it.
All righty. In 1958, at Camp Crystal Lake, counselors Barry and Claudette sneak off for a little Rollins-y hay and are murdered by an unknown person. Jump forward to present day, 1980, counselor Annie Phillips hitches a ride from the trucker to the reopening Camp Crystal Lake. The trucker explains a boy drowned there back in 1957. Annie then hitches another ride for the second half of her trip to the camp from an unknown individual who chases her into the woods and slashes her throat. Now at Camp Crystal Lake, we see Ned, Jack, Bill, Marcy, Brenda, Alice, and owner Steve clean up the campgrounds in preparation for the campers' arrival. Steve leaves the campgrounds to get supplies, and while he's gone, Ned's throat is slit, Jack's throat is stabbed with an arrow, Marcy gets an axe to the head. Steve finally returns. He recognizes the mysterious killer and is then stabbed. Alice and Bill go to investigate their friend's disappearance. They find a bloody axe. The phone is cut. The phone line is cut. The truck is inoperable. The power eventually goes out, and Bill tries to get the generator up and running. Alice finds him dead and pinned to the door. Alice sees a car pull up and meets Miss Voorhees, who claims to be a friend of Steve's. She reveals the boy named Jason was her son. He drowned in 1957. She blames the counselors for his death as they were busy doing the horizontal mambo instead of watching her
Did
boy.
you write that?
Of course not. Miss Voorhees reveals herself as the killer and tries to kill Alice. Alice eventually decapitates Miss Voorhees with a machete. She then lays down in a canoe and floats out onto the lake and falls asleep. Jason's horrific body jumps up out of the water and attacks her. She then wakes up in a hospital, surrounded by doctors and a police officer. Alice asks, "What about the boy?" And the cop says, "There was no boy. What are you talking about?" And then Alice says, "Well, he must still be out there." Roll credits. That's the movie.
So what I've learned here is that Bob is going to be the type of dad that uses phrases like playing console hockey. and
Yes,
things like
100%. We'll say
that.
that.
All right,
yes.
cool.
The revelation is Bob's going to be a father.
I've got
I've got the
dozens-
pregnancy test right here.
dozens of illegits across the land. We all know this.
We all,
They're all vying for a piece of the pie.
This they're after my straight chilling podcast fortune, you know.
So please become a patron. You
got to support Bob's children.
gotta pay Bob's lawyers.
My children. Shouts outs to G.
My childos.
Nope.
Yeah, that's the movie. Let's dive into this film. Yes, we are.
We are
indeed.
going.
Thanks, Robert.
Sorry, this is the one time on the behind the scenes where you won't get the bumps this week. Sorry. Apologies.
Yeah.
That's what happens when the boys are back.
When the
The
boys
boys
are
are back. The boys are back. Never come back
Never come
again.
back again.
Yeah.
Well, God damn it, Ralph.
I
I
want-
want so negative.
You are on point though.
I wonder why.
It's got.
Oh,
No,
my
God,
Bob,
Bob,
that's
it's
too
got
much.
This
Death
isn't a
curse.
ventriloquist act, Bob. Let's
It's got
get
a
back
fucking
on
death
track here.
curse. So yeah, we're talking about the seminal summer camp slasher film Friday the 13th. This when you think of Friday the 13th, you think Jason with a hockey mask.
Yeah,
full
sorry
grown-
for that spoiler, I guess.
You think of a full grown man who's like terrifying,
It's a
very
movie.
strong, potentially supernatural, depending on what movie you're watching.
Yeah.
But none of that exists in this movie.
Correct.
When you watch this movie, whenever you see the killer, it's usually through like a POV shot. You might see a hand on occasion, but you have no sense of like who the killer really is until the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
And while you're watching it, at no point do you assume it's like an old ass lady.
Certainly
Like,
not someone you've never met.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
There's no way for you to
you can't
guess that.
That's
Yeah.
true. You can't guess.
I mean, you could, but it would be a fucking shot in the dark.
Yeah, it's an interesting, like, this was spoiled for me before I watched it. Like, I assume probably most people. it
Oh,
was
really?
spoiled. Yeah. So like, I don't know how surprised I would have been, or if I would have like really enjoyed that reveal. Was it fresh
because
to
of the
you guys?
expectation? Yeah.
I
when you watched
honestly cannot recall the first time I watched Friday
Oh,
the
really?
13th. Like, it doesn't stick out in my mind. So I'm not sure how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Because I really just can't place it.
I
Yeah.
definitely was surprised when I watched it. I was, like I said, I was like 11, maybe even like 10. And I was watching at my cousin's place, the two of us. He was even younger. So I'm sorry, Chris, if you're fucked up, it's probably
You're
this
fucked
movie's
up.
fault.
You fucked him up.
Yeah, I probably fucked you up, buddy.
He's dead in a gutter.
Jesus
Damn.
fucking
I
Christ.
hope not.
Um,
Now you got to take a shot of Malort for saying that.
Oh, okay.
That's
how
your
that-
penance.
apparently.
If I do,
Anyway.
we all do, huh, Bob?
Oh fuck me.
The rules keep changing. Anyway, but yeah, so that movie, it did surprise me because I was expecting Jason and I was not upset. I was like, oh shit, this is like, to me, it's like, this is a movie, this franchise is seen as like the most successful dumb version of horror, like the franchise as a whole. It's like, you can watch it, you know what to expect. It's the basic thing. It's the fucking Waffle House of horror films. You know what you're getting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I didn't know what I was getting. I was like, okay, maybe there's some depth to this I didn't realize. And of course, I wasn't thinking about that exactly in those terms at that age. But I was like intrigued by the idea that they could do something other than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe this is like a more interesting thing than I thought. So,
Yeah, we're watching.
and for a while, it kind of was.
We're watching some of the bonus features on this disc here, and there was an interview with Sean S. Cunningham, the director. And one of the things he mentioned, which I think you were kind of touching on a little bit, was they were asking him, like, why is Friday the 13th so successful? Why did it blow up? Why are there so many of them? And the main thing he was talking about was its like reliability, its consistency.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're gonna get.
That's true.
And then he eventually referred to it as like, quote, blue collar horror. And I was like, that's interesting. It's like, it's reliable. It's like, you know, the mechanics, it shows up and like delivers exactly what you want for the most part until you get like Jason X.
Well, I
and,
mean,
like,
yeah, things
crazy
are-
stuff.
They do some off the wall stuff, but it's always like slight, or that's like maybe the most extreme variation
Yeah.
out of the bunch. And if you go into a Friday the 13th movie, nobody's going to walk into that theater without having the base knowledge of what generally the film's going to be.
Yeah, and that's fair. So, I mean, because I mean, at this point, we're kind of talking about the franchise. It's very interesting to me, though. This franchise is able to lock down the kind of iconic stats on a couple different things. One, the summer camp vibe,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
just summer camp movies in horror. This one is a lock, and the hockey mask killer with the machete, which is interesting because that doesn't, I don't think this is spoiled, but like doesn't even apply itself until the third movie in
Yeah,
the franchise.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty rare. Now, like as far as consistency goes, when we're comparing it to say like a Halloween type franchise, it really doesn't try to do some of the wild things that other franchises tries to do. Like even by part 7, part 8, we were talking about Jason Takes Manhattan tonight. I mean, yeah, they get into maybe some supernatural stuff. Oh, there's that one where he's a worm. That one's weird. But for the
Jason goes
Jason
to
Goes
hell,
to
but for the most
which is great.
for the most
Interesting.
part, it really is. It's not great.
It's great.
Is this like hulking giant with the machete, and yet some of the best entries in the franchise wanted to don't even include that.
Yeah. Well, what's
Yeah.
interesting is like as a franchise, it only looks forward. You know, Halloween does a lot of retrospection, a lot of lore building. Even when they eventually disregard that
Yeah.
new lore,
Mhm.
they're usually looking at the original in some way
That's
and
true.
really building on it.
That's
This
true.
series does not do that.
True.
Neither like Freddy does it, or Nightmare on Elm Street kind of does the same thing as Halloween, but this is the only franchise I know that has gone as long as it has, as big as it has, while also like it only builds on an archetype almost more
Mhm.
than, you know what I mean? Like the first two, like you said, like they morphed so much. There are some standards, but they're mostly like you're building on the same thing. It does not concern itself with looking backwards at
Mhm.
Mrs. Voorhees very often. It doesn't bother itself with looking back at, you know, any of the previously established shit, any of the previous characters. Tommy Jarvis is the closest thing you get to an ongoing character. There's no Jamie Lee Curtis in this.
That's what I was thinking during this
Mhm.
film. And even now I'm thinking, like, okay, I want to compare some of these franchises. I think Halloween's maybe the closest thing because he doesn't speak. He's just kind of this lurking shadow that's always coming after you that can't be stopped. And yet, like you said, there is no Jamie Lee Curtis opposite of a Michael Myers, and there's no even Loomis.
Well,
In
no,
this
yeah, there's no
instance,
threat
there's-
except for
There's
the archetype of
yeah.
the hulking giant killing the people at a summer camp or beyond.
It really is the setting that makes it special.
True. There was a point when they were writing this, and like the movie was a hit. They were going into writing this sequel, and they wanted initially the character of Alice to make. I mean, she does come back in this second
Yeah.
movie, but she
But, like,
doesn't
she gets
have
the
a
shaft.
big part. But they were going to try and turn her basically into a Laurie Strode, where she has to battle Jason Voorhees over and over again.
Yeah.
For one reason or another, that didn't happen. There's like conflicting information there. Like whenever you see her in an interview, she says specifically that she was down to be like the lead in the film and would have done whatever they wanted. And when you talk to like a producer on the movie, they're like, well, she was being stalked in real life by mega fans and was legitimately terrified and said that if she was going to return, she wanted to be a very minuscule part. And that's what happened ultimately in the second film. So-
In that situation,
Yeah.
I tend to believe the person without the lawyers.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, so like you guys were saying though, like the setting is really like what is established here in this original film. The killer is not, and the killer is beheaded at the end of this first
Yeah.
film.
And does not ever return except as specters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does set up like the lore though, because it sets it an established why.
Right.
So we have
Yeah.
a setting, we have a why. But I did find it interesting that they were like, we don't care about any of these characters. And it's maybe a positive for the franchise to be able to push itself as
Mhm.
long and like recreate itself as long as it's been able to. But for this movie, this time around, I thought of it as a flaw for the movie itself. Because there's no one that's particularly distinct except for their ridiculous clothing. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
I mean, they
I
feel
don't know.
okay enough as people, but they really all are just fodder. And at no point did I feel like anybody was indistinguishable from anyone else.
See, okay, I feel differently than that. Which
Okay. I
is
think
I think
surprising
they're
to me.
distinguishable.
Yeah, and to me, they are distinguishable. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they are characters that are
Deep.
They're not fully fleshed
They're not
out
fully
at
fleshed
all.
out characters.
Yeah.
They're archetypal characters.
Yeah.
But and what's interesting is that this movie goes a long way in establishing archetypes
Mhm.
as the standard. So you have the goofball who plays tricks. You have the sex positive chick who's going after somebody hard. You have two. I'll give you this: Kevin Bacon. If it wasn't Kevin
It's
Bacon, I wouldn't be able to tell
A
him.
dick
from Big
dragging around
Brother's
a body,
dick. So-
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, yeah. Kevin Bacon's dick is its own character. And then you've got the girl who gets
The
like
slab of bacon.
just
Bacon and
Bullets.
sausage, am I right? God damn.
couple pancakes too. Anyway, yes. So and there are characters that I will say fit your description, but I would say there's more. I was watching this with Rob earlier this week, and I remember saying to you, I was like, these characters are more distinctive than I remember them being, or I give them credit for normally. And it's not because they're particularly effectively distinctive, but I like Alice is very distinctive to me as like being like she is a final girl. She fits that mold. And as time when that was not necessarily an established trope, a necessity of the genre.
Mm.
And then you've got, I don't know, you've got a few characters that I think
The
go
owner of
beyond
the
what you're
camp,
describing.
Steve, is like somewhat distinct. We don't spend a whole lot of time with him. Most of the time, he's actually just like out at the diner or like running errands or whatever.
Yeah.
But like you get a decent sense of him. Like he's in this sort of like strange conflicted relationship with Alice, and then
One
like,
scene.
one scene, yeah. But there's like I think that gives you some information about him,
I guess.
and he definitely looks like a porn star. So like I don't really know what's
That
going on with that.
definitely has sex for me.
Yeah, see that to me, that was the only scene. Now I know we're like talking through it, but like that was the only scene that had any kind of depth to it, though.
Mhm.
That scene where they were talking, because once he leaves, but I mean, what do these people do? They play, three of them play strip Monopoly.
Yeah. They
Two of
swim.
them bang it out.
They swim.
They go
earlier.
swim.
They swim. I mean, there's nothing that like builds.
Well, there's
any
not a lot
kind
of drama. There's no dramatic arcs. Is that what
Yeah.
you're describing?
Well, not even dramatic arcs. There's like two, like brunette, maybe even three. I mean, aside from the woman who starts off hitchhiking, there's like two brunettes
I
who
guess
just
that's
are kind of like interchangeable. To me, I don't. There's just like there's nothing about these characters where I'm like, oh no, that person died. They have a sister that cares for them. Like, there's no
drama. to it.
distinguishing
They're red shirts.
factors. Yeah, they're not even just like drama to it. They're just, I couldn't tell you anything about this person that I just saw killed. And usually when you see somebody die, you want to care
Know-
about
know
them in
something
some
about it. Yeah,
way.
yeah,
No,
Yeah.
I'll give you that. And there's definitely characters like that. I will say that to me, that while that does give a slight bit of drama, that scene bothers me as well as the entire character of whatever Christie, the camp owner guy. What was his name?
His
It
name
doesn't
was
matter.
Steve
Mustache.
Christie. Steve
So
Christie.
porn stash, his whole character bothers me because they have that moment, and then the rest of the film he spends off camp in a diner, in a car,
Mhm.
with a cop, like
I
trying to
also-
get home in the rain, and then he gets stabbed, and that is it.
I want to reiterate that Steve Christie is 100% banging that old lady that works at the diner.
Oh yeah, that old lady can get it, and she
Yeah.
has gotten it.
Steve takes wild swings. He goes super young and goes super old.
Wild swings.
The pendulum swings tomorrow.
He's-
look,
Steve.
passing out the mustache.
He
wraps.
might be a sex addict, but whatever.
I don't know. I mean, you've got like the jokester Ned who like dresses up like an Indian. He's kind of obnoxious. We've got the character of Bill, who's like pretty forgettable, except for the fact that he's Harry Crosby, Bing Crosby's nephew, which is pretty cool.
Oh, it's his nephew. I thought it was his son.
Nephew, yeah, and he
I think you said something.
plays guitar.
I said son earlier.
I don't know.
Okay.
They're related in some
They're
way.
related.
Kevin Bacon is all dick. Marcy's all nipples.
Marcy is all nipples.
Alice
My God.
is like we spend a shitload of time with Alice, but she's still not very fleshed out.
I'll agree to that.
I don't know that I could say much about her character.
Nobody's looking at these characters and saying, wow, that's a really compelling character.
Yeah, as far
Um,
as the final girl, she's got to be the weakest. that I
She's
can
one of
think
the weakest for sure. And it's partially because of the writing, because
Yeah, not because of her. It's an
no,
actress.
yeah, she
Yeah,
does
no, she-
fine as an actress.
yeah.
She
She does a
could
great job.
she does just as well in her acting role as God, I'm forgetting her name, Nancy from fucking Nightmare.
Yeah.
I would say she's just not given the meat of the role that is required to make that memorable. I would argue.
Yeah, because like Alice starts off strong where she's like a little bit worried about her friends and like their disappearance, but then when they find
There's
the
a romantic
bloody
element.
axe in the bed, and like they find out the phone line is cut, and they find out the car mysteriously won't crank up anymore. Like nobody's like super worried at that. Like well, it's
Yeah,
just her and
exactly.
Bill.
And that's the thing, is like she like embodies the, I would say, negative stereotype to some extent of especially women, like final girls in horror films, where she makes a bunch of like the most dumb tropey mistakes. She drops weapons, she throws yarn at the killer,
She takes
like
a nap.
she takes a
and
fucking nap
makes
after
coffee.
finding a bloody axe. She takes a nap and makes
Well,
coffee.
I would say, like, to be fair, I like the way there was some of that. Like, that's fair. But it wasn't like, oh, we found a dead body and then she does those things. Like, the killer is able to pick people off pretty stealthily, and you
Mhm.
don't start seeing the
Sure.
bodies dropping until she's running for her
All I'm
life. So I
saying-
kind of like that.
All I'm saying is that as a final girl, if I'm watching, if she's the pivotal character, if she's the one you're pivoting around,
Yeah.
the minute you find that axe, your ass is walking to town.
Yeah.
If it has to be in the rain, so fucking be it.
Yeah.
If it has to be 20 miles, so fucking
Even
be
if
it.
you don't take a walk in the rain, like you're not napping. you're doing something.
you're at
right,
least
Staying
alert.
to help
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
You're doing something.
And
yeah.
she only did that as a method for the screenwriter to move the thing along, and that is the stereotype. It's that these are not real characters; they're plot devices themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to progress the plot, and it would be easier to do that if she takes a nap. So you write it.
Yeah,
She
it's like, what does she
naps.
do? She just fucking takes a nap.
Yeah, this was written
Yeah.
in like 2 weeks, by the way. So like they didn't spend a lot of time.
And
on it.
in the special features that we watched, they were like the marching orders to making this. The Cunningham was approached and said, "We want to rip off Halloween." Like that is point blank what he was told.
Huh.
That's why they start out with a previous trauma of, and then a flashback with a first person view killer. Like that's why they do all that shit, because Halloween did it. So like this movie more than any other is probably the most successful ripoff of Halloween you'll ever find. This whole franchise, really.
God, it really is the setting.
Yeah, the setting makes it
that
interesting.
Carries this so far, which is interesting. Also, I like the idea. One thing I do like this that separates it from the Halloween or whatever, and the characters, while they are flat, feel fairly authentic in what they're doing. They're not deep characters, but I never feel like anybody's putting on some kind of weird, crazy act. They're young teenagers that are counselors at a thing, and like, yeah, they don't react to a bloody axe probably as appropriately as they should, but they're not asking these kids or these people to do anything that's overly like theatric or unbelievable.
Yeah, they're just having conversations
playing,
about generators and shit.
yeah,
Like,
they're playing strip Monopoly. They're just young people
I would say they're
hanging
decent
out.
actors.
Yeah, and I think that is okay. Like that's what is intriguing about this area and this space, because it feels real in a way. And yeah, people drop weapons and stuff like that, but they're also not doing like crazy, unbelievable things.
That's
For the
almost what
most
makes
part.
those things so egregious, is that
Yeah.
these aren't sleepaway camp characters where they're so over the top all the time that when they do something stupid, you're just like, yep, of course they would. There's people that are doing stupid things despite being like able to, jury rig a generator or fucking, dream up strip Monopoly or whatever else. Like they're doing these things pretty capably up until the point where the plot needs them to fuck up.
Yeah.
And then the plot tells them to fuck up. And the other thing, no, I lost my train of thought on the other thing. So
Well, something I wanted to touch on, like we mentioned how this was directly a ripoff of Halloween, like that's what they were instructed to do.
yeah,
And it is a slasher movie for sure. And it references Halloween in certain ways. But also, like, as we were watching this movie, we were talking about how the ending is really the most memorable part of it. And it seems more like Psycho, or the inverse of Psycho, than like anything to do with Halloween's ending.
and the other, I'm sorry, this is actually tying into what I was thinking about earlier.
Okay.
In addition to that, the difference between this and Halloween is the gore.
Yeah.
They're like in Halloween, a lot of the gore is like a slice here, a cut there, an
Yeah,
off-screen
yeah.
kill, somebody, they find bodies, but there's not a whole lot of, you don't see somebody get beheaded in fucking Halloween in the first, when they're
Yeah.
opening this up.
Sure.
This is the movie that brings the gore factor to the idea of a Michael Myers style slasher. And I think that, even more than maybe the setting, is why this movie succeeded. And that is the defining thing about
Tom
this series.
Savini killing it on
Exactly.
the factual
That's
effects,
true.
so.
I was trying to think though, it's so hard because Friday the 13th franchise is such an iconic franchise, and it has so many memorable kills. Because there's not so many iconic characters, it almost derives itself from like, what does Jason normally do to people?
Jason is the protagonist in much of the franchise.
Whereas this one, they are lacking in the sense of the franchise, because obviously that's where they take it. They go bigger and they get more creative. In this one, I mean, the arrow through the throat, the guy who's hung up on the wall, which is a little bit of a rip, like
With
from
arrows.
Halloween.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
We do get an axe to the face, which looks good.
Mhm.
So shouts outs for Tom. But I mean, it really is the drag into the lake from the kid. I mean, that
Yeah.
still
We
is
get a
like,
couple-
That's definitely more definitive of a thing.
A
than
couple of people
Halloween.
die
Yeah.
off screen too. Like we don't. Exactly. So
Yeah.
like Brenda goes out to
Yeah.
the archery range, and you would assume she'd be shot with arrows. But
Yeah.
when we see her thrown through the window, she doesn't have arrows in her.
There's
Her
nothing
throat is
distinct.
cut.
But I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the reason, like, that's not true of the whole franchise, and I think the reason is because it became known for that, and so it began to ramp up from there.
Yeah.
That's the seed of the rest of franchise, and by extension, the rest of slasher films, and by extension, how people think about horror films.
I think so
True.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The sequel, part 2, was actually cut even more. So like this movie, nobody thought was going to be anything, and then it blew up, made a shitload of money. So the MPAA like cracked down on the sequel even more than they did on the first one, and they made them cut a lot of shit. It's really
Yeah.
not very gory, to be honest, but the kills are more inventive, and what you do see is like a little more like tantalizing, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Okay.
Well, there are things you wouldn't go into, like, I'm thinking at that era, in that era, they are the most inventive kills you're going to see on screen,
yeah.
you know, and so that became the staple, and that became what, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah.
tried to replicate through a even more creative of a concept, like, you know, using
Yeah.
a more creative like setting or realm. And that's why those things succeeded. That's what they were aiming for. And there's a lot of other reasons they succeeded. Of course, there's a lot of external factors and a lot of factors about the films themselves and each individual film, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that's kind of the crux of it. As much as I like the summer camp thing, I think that the summer camp thing and how we think about that as like a great horror environment, I think that's a byproduct of this film's legacy, not the other way around.
Yeah. One thing I liked was the character that were introduced. I think her name is Katie, introduced her at the beginning. I like it, kind of reminded me of Scream a little bit, which I know Scream came much later. And the big thing about that was Drew Barrymore was the character that played it. They kind of got the axe in the early, you know, scenes. But
Mhm.
Talking about the hitchhiker,
yeah,
Hitchhiker.
so
Annie.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, not Kate. So Annie, I liked it. She's almost set up like she's going to be the main one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you spend more time with her, she has a little bit more personality. You see her like talk to her dog, and not her dog, but a dog. You see her
Talk about
talk.
the dog's dick.
You see her like kind of conversing with the driver, and then also the people in like the little cafe or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I like that kind of swerve, because it almost sets up this idea of like, don't go into this with expectations.
And that's the thing, is like, I think that those come from our years of external knowledge that this film, that people watching this film originally had no benefit from.
Yeah.
And I, you know, like, and that's, you know, you can look at it either way, but I'm just, in me trying to think about how this film was, what this film was made for and how people would receive it. You know, that's, I agree with you. I think like that she is set up to be the protagonist and they kill her off early. And that is very much like Drew Barrymore in
In
Scream.
Scream.
Yeah.
And people were shocked by that, because that exact tack had not been troped by the franchises, by the slashers, because they more focused on the Alice character and and the Jamie Lee Curtis characters. That those were the standards. Having this sort of like intro character that you are interested in and then who falls, that was not a trope until I think Scream sort of brought it back.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Wes Craven killed that shit. I wanted to mention.
Solid 1 star.
No, I wanted to mention like Miss Voorhees being the killer. Like after we're introduced to this old ass lady, like if you consider everything that she was able to do throughout this whole movie, including throwing a dead body through a window, like she would have to be in great
Oh
shape
yeah,
to
and
pull all
this
this
movie
off.
definitely sets up the trope of unrealistic kills or unrealistic
Yeah.
abilities of the killer to be in 3 places at once and be, in this particular case, be able to physically do things that a normal 50-year-old woman could never do.
That's the biggest one. Also, I guess in a way, like theatrics of it, unnecessary. Like the guy hung up on the door.
Yeah,
and
he
the
like falls
arrows.
down.
The guy,
And then there's somebody in a tree.
In a tree,
the guy in the
yeah.
tree. It's
Like,
like, you don't
why
even
would
see him
you
in a
put
tree. Like,
somebody in a tree?
why would you put somebody in a tree? And also,
It's a Halloween
how would
ripoff.
he swing there? Like exactly, like
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
Halloween ripoff. They did that in Halloween, but
Yeah,
there was.
they opened the cupboard door, or whatever it is.
He was in a
closet
closet
door.
and that was crazy
Yeah.
enough, but at least that was done by a
giant man.
psychopath and
Yeah.
not a small psychopath.
Old.
Like small old
a
psychopath.
frail old lady.
Not frail. I like she gets
Well,
in that
apparently
mud
she's
fight
fucking
later on.
thick.
Well, dude,
She's
she's
all
all about
about
mud
them
fight, and I'll give her
groceries, am I
that.
right,
She-
Corey?
when her and Alice are rolling around in the ground, she's putting up a fucking fight. That lady's
Yeah.
been in a bar brawl before. I guarantee
She
it. And I
eats a
don't
lot of
mean
spinach.
Pamela. I mean the actress Betsy has fucking been in a bar
Yeah.
brawl. I'll
Mm.
bet you money.
She is the only reason she did this movie. I think she was retired for like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And then she came back to do this movie.
So she could buy a car, right?
Yeah, she got the script and read it and
Okay.
apparently said, like, this is a piece of shit, and literally threw it in the garbage, and then was like, well, probably nobody will watch it. And I'm gonna get like, I don't know, 20 grand for a week's worth of work. So whatever. And she went and like dug it out of the trash and did it and got
Hell
paid
yeah.
and bought a car. And then of course it's like the thing that she's fucking known for now.
And she
That's
almost like I don't know if she's still alive, is she? I hope.
I think she just passed away
Okay.
like
Yeah.
in
That's sad, and
2015
RIP.
maybe.
Okay.
But I sincerely appreciate the hustle
Yeah,
of
fuck
all
it.
of that.
Yeah.
Get you a whip.
Dude,
Yeah,
you
no
know,
shame.
and like, but she also like I've seen the interviews I've seen with her. It makes it seem like she's kind of resentful that that's her most known role.
Yeah.
Because she definitely still
Yeah, I
doesn't
don't-
care about the franchise.
I don't like that type of perception, but it's another interesting way. Fucking Kevin Bacon. I mean, we've seen
Yeah.
it again. Texas Chainsaw 4 had
McConaughey.
McConaughey
yeah.
and the woman.
Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, Renee. Like and also Jennifer
Yeah.
Aniston in Leprechaun.
Yeah.
I love seeing these.
Zell
Like proto
bigger,
stars.
yeah.
Zellweger like refuses to acknowledge
I
that she was in
know.
that
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw movie.
Which, to be fair,
It's bad, but like yeah, everybody knows it's
Oh,
you.
the thing is, like,
just-
yeah,
you're
but
not gonna
that's
lose
not-
decorum, in my opinion.
but
Like,
that's not as iconic. Like to say,
No.
like, oh, I'm ashamed of my position in Friday the 13th. Like people review this movie as
people love you because of this.
yeah,
movie.
one of
Yeah,
the
so there's-
most
I
like
get what
iconic horror franchise films
Yeah.
is this film, and to be
And
like,
did
oh,
you-
I
was
don't
it-
want people to know. It's like, come on.
I'm trying to remember. There was a Pamela character in Freddy versus Jason. Was that her? Did they bring her back? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I've
have
seen
to
that
look it
movie
up.
like 1.5 times.
Are you serious?
I'm
I've seen
not
it like
super familiar with
6
it.
times. at least.
She's been.
I
in
think
more,
so,
though. At least
fro-
the boys.
So well, she definitely came back. I think she's only been in the first two
Okay.
based on trivia that I've read.
But she was not really in the second one.
Well, she came back and they shot like one new scene with
Oh,
her
really?
where
I
she's
didn't
a
know that.
disembodied head talking to Jason, basically.
Okay, yeah.
So her character isn't really in it. It's like he's having a vision of her.
yeah.
But they did have to shoot it new. So she's technically in 1 and 2. But she, like when she was doing interviews and stuff, like at conventions, she legit forgot she did the shoots for part 2 and would insist that she was only in part 1.
That was not.
Maybe she didn't see the second.
I mean, she probably did.
She didn't see the
You're
first one,
probably-
she, according to her.
Yeah.
Like she, and by the way, I just looked it up. She was not in Freddy vs. Jason. That was a
All right,
stand-in.
I was
for
just
us.
looking at it too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so just the first 2 then. I don't know.
Paula Shaw played
Yeah.
Pamela Voorhees and Freddy.
And
versus
she did a
Jason.
good job picking up the baton. I'll say. I like that movie.
Me
It's a
too.
goofy
I
fucking
wish
movie.
we would cover that movie.
We should. one
I'm
day.
sure we
One day
will eventually.
Um,
And
I
another
mean-
330
Yeah,
I mean, you know, we've
episodes.
only done this for 7
we're gonna be
years.
doing this deep into Armageddon,
I hope
I
so.
hope so.
I hope so.
which will be next year sometime.
We'll be the last men standing. We're sitting,
Just casting.
talking, just jawing on.
I really like Monica Keeter in this film. She does a great job.
Still,
My teeth are falling out.
still underground celebrities, you know.
Still underground celebrity. Everybody's dead. We're somehow celebrities. Yeah. Okay.
Underground celebrities.
Literally
Uh-huh.
mole people celebrities.
Yeah. Can we talk about Marcy's fucked up dream where she's talking about it raining blood and then
Do
the
we
blood
have
turning
to?
into like rivers?
That's maybe the most forgettable thing about this movie. We watched that. We had to roll it back when we watched it. Just the two of us.
yeah.
And while we were streaming, I still didn't pay much attention. I can't listen to that shit.
It's like supposed to be ominous.
I know
but,
it is.
but it lands with a bit of a thud. But it's also like she's talking to Kevin Bacon, and it's just before they go banging out. And like, if you were sitting there hearing this stuff, would you be like, yeah, but I'd still beat? Like, I don't. It's just like a weird.
They're teenagers, Bob, and they're
I'm so
sensible.
deep.
It's
I
a-
mean, I
it's a
don't know. If
weird
you're out
thing.
at a camp and you're looking for a bang,
Honestly, I'll agree with that. Like having spent much of my time in summer camp, there's a lot of people who will posture.
Randy's just fucking it can. Just fucking.
I don't
What
know.
I was gonna say is that people will posture deep thoughts,
Yeah.
you know, for one reason or another, for social clout, essentially, whether it be to get banged or to get, you know, somebody's attention, you know. What I mean?
Yeah. Or yeah.
And
I
that's
don't
that
know.
extends from campers to counselors for sure.
Yeah, and from both ends, just being like, okay, I'll deal with this until
I'll deal with this.
Yeah. No, and that's the other thing is like, do you really think Kevin Bacon gave a shit? Those woman's
Yeah.
that woman's nipples
Those
were
women's
present.
Yeah, they were ready to
They
go.
were standing ready
At
to vote.
attention.
ready to vote.
They were ready to go.
I am ready to vote.
Standing at attention, standing up for a cause, and that cause was bacon dick.
etc. etc. What about Harry
Did we mention we're
Manfredini's
drinking?
score? We gotta.
Gonna get tore up.
I
That's a
feel
great
like
score.
I feel like the score
Oh,
of this,
yeah.
of this
Good
movie
call, Bob.
is insanely iconic, and like when you hear it, you know what it is. But to hum it is a bit difficult because it's just like string stabs, basically. Like
What is that?
It's no, you. Yeah.
that too. I mean, that's
What
part
is
of it.
that?
So that is a
think I heard
literal
that.
human voice
Okay.
saying the words "kill" and then "mom." Kill, kill,
Really?
But what's interesting is that
Okay.
everybody interprets it differently.
True.
That I remember, I think it was like
Huh.
Crystal Lake Memories or something. They went around asking people to do it, and everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I heard it as
Yeah, that's kind of how
or
I.
it's like
She
As long as it's-
cha.
E and then ah, or like and then in some way
Yeah.
it works. And that's what's interesting about it is
Huh.
you can't tell what they're saying,
Right.
but knowing that impetus makes a lot of sense. And then, you know,
And that is Harry Manfredini's voice, apparently.
Is it?
Actually saying that, yeah.
I was gonna say. I mean, I will say, we played Friday the 13th. We were talking about this during the stream a couple years ago. The game. And that sound effect specifically comes up when Jason is within your vicinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like not, you know, obviously right next to you, but like he's probably can see you or he's coming for you. And that shit ramps up tension immediately. As someone like trying to be like, I'm trying to survive. I gotta run into this cabin. I gotta like jump through this window. I gotta do these
It's an
things.
alarm.
That
sounds
sounds
like
is so fucking effective.
so. And what we said during the stream or whatever. So Manfredini was talking about it in those bonus features Bob and I were watching.
Mhm.
And what he said, I have never played this game. So what you're saying makes perfect sense though, as almost even a reference, because Manfredini's approach to the film was to never use a score, period, to be completely silent unless the killer was on or around the character on screen.
Okay.
So, and with the exception of like one or two scenes. So the idea that that would be almost like alarm bells, you know what I mean? That makes perfect sense for the game and is a brilliant move on their part for both reasons. And actually, when you described that, I immediately thought of the Guardians from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you suddenly hear that fucking piano music and you're like,
Oh yeah.
oh shit.
I gotta move my
Fuck!
asshole. Right,
Yeah.
Bob?
You gotta move your asshole. Bobby Jarvis says haul some ass.
Bobby Jarvis. If you want a good laugh, go back and check out our
Bobby
YouTube
Jarvis.
page and watch Bob just jog through Camp Crystal Lake.
Endlessly, just doing nothing.
Just jogging.
Just sucking at video
That
games.
was a lot. That was a lot of fun though. Bob
Yeah.
joining us on that and getting the whole crew together. That was
It was fun.
that was a
I was
lot
sad
of
to
fun.
miss.
It was fun. We should do it again
Yeah.
eventually.
Randy gotta get that Xbox, that sex box done.
Well, we got to get more patrons then.
Just
I can't afford. What?
Oh,
we
wait.
have-
Oh,
we
we
haven't-
missed it.
We haven't talking about. We haven't. We got to get into Ralph.
Ralph
This
is
guy.
the goat.
Here's the thing, though, that I actually found kind of weak in this go around.
Okay.
Is because they kind of set up Ralph as the red herring, right? He's crazy.
Yeah.
Even the cop gives the warning.
He's in the
about him-
cupboard.
yeah, about him being arrested before. But here's the thing: is Annie?
Yeah.
She sees Ralph
Yeah.
at the beginning. She gets a ride from somebody. She gets off at the cemetery. She gets a ride with
She
somebody
gets
else.
off at the cemetery.
She gets off.
We
of
all do,
course.
really.
Uh huh.
Yes. But then she gets in the car with the killer because we see that the killer actually, she jumps out of the Jeep or whatever. That's obviously not Ralph because she knows who Ralph is.
Well, Ralph drives a bike.
Well, and I know, but still,
I know.
the setup is Ralph is like
Right.
they completely throw that out
Yeah.
before they even set up the idea that he's the killer when he shows up out of the cupboard.
I'll be honest with you. Like the time I've seen this movie probably 7 or 8 times. The first time I saw it, I described already. At that time, I was not really aware of the idea of the Harbinger character.
Okay,
Cabin in
yeah.
the Woods was still some years off, guys. I'm an old man. And so like to me, I that would have been the time I would have seen him as a red herring, and I definitely did.
Okay.
I definitely still saw him as like, man, this crazy old man is dropping some knowledge on these kids, even though he is clearly like a spittle spewing weirdo. And like, it's hilarious. That performance is fucking hilarious and great. He is a real prophet of doom. And I don't know, like, so, but later on, that got replaced with, oh, here's the Harbinger archetype.
Yeah, we saw it in like My Bloody Valentine this year, like how they started hammering that home later on. in
So I
later
guess I
series.
never experienced the idea of him being a red herring until you just saying that right now, which
Yeah.
to me, yeah, I definitely can see what you're saying. I can definitely hear what you have to say. Like that makes sense. But it almost, to me, it never came up. To me, it was always, this is the guy who knows the real truth, but is too crazy seeming to be taken seriously.
Well, I think the problem is they set him up and the cop comes out and he specifically says he's been arrested. We know he's crazy. He's kind of got this looming, intimidating feel. And like Bob said earlier, there's no one else. We don't see Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah.
There's no other one that they allude to as this is the killer.
I don't, yeah, and I
So
can't decide.
it's like a Scooby-Doo thing where there's no other,
No, you're right.
possibility.
But like to me, I wonder, like part of me, I agree with you. And the movie could have benefited with some more red herrings, maybe. And maybe the idea was to have like maybe that weird cop be a red herring who calls weed grass, dig it.
I guess you could,
Can you dig it?
at a certain point, you could think Steve Christie is a red herring until he comes back to camp and gets
Yeah.
killed. But like when he's gone,
but they
people
show
know-
a lot of
But
him
they show
chilling at a
him in the
diner. Yeah.
diner.
But yeah, true. But
Maybe
like
that
for the
old
first
lady's it.
30 minutes, you don't really know where he's
That's
at. I don't know.
true.
That's true. I mean, I guess you could, yeah, until you see that.
But there's
movie.
not a
It
lot.
is a
You're
real
right.
There's
missed
not a lot, but to
opportunity.
me, like I
Yeah.
wonder, like that, disregarding that, having Pamela show up as a fully fledged new character
Mhm.
right before she's revealed to be the killer,
Mhm.
like I kind of love that on some level,
Yeah.
because it's so jarring. It's so like, I don't know, man. It's like the killer only reveals themselves when they want to be fucking revealed. It's not before. Like if you're talking about this idea of this character who is so stealthy, we talked about that during the stream. She's so stealthy, she can do X, Y, and Z, and she can like perfectly manipulate these kids into sticking around, even though she's like clearly a deranged killer. But then you fucking having her show up as the fully fledged villain last second and then get to monologue her way to that conclusion. I kind of love that scene of her getting there
Mhm.
and like being just like, I'm a new person and I'm here to kill you. Like,
I like watching that evolution because when she's on screen, she demands attention.
yeah, she's a very confident personality
100%. Yeah.
and she's so new that you're like already at attention.
Yeah. I really enjoy watching that conversation and her revealing herself as a killer. But once you have time to like chew on that bit of new
Mhm.
information and think about her doing all the things that you've
Yes.
just seen, it falls apart from me.
Absolutely.
Then.
Yes. Yeah. But like the logic of her being able to do that is the problem.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a solid reveal.
I think that like, yeah, I just like the reveal. I kind of like the decision to do that. I don't know if it was a cognizant decision because a lot of this movie suggests that they were not making, salient decisions about stuff.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fly by the seat of your pants sort of shit.
Yeah.
So it's tough to really, it's tough to both give credit and ding for a lot of this shit, at the same time. But I love that scene of her like being like, oh, maybe it's someone here to save you, but she's kind of menacing, and oh shit, she's talking to herself. Okay, this is the killer. Like, I kind of love that like quick transition within like 2 minutes you get there, less than that. I kind of love that. And I kind of don't want to trade that for anything. I wish there were other red herrings, but I don't know that I would introduce her as a character earlier.
I guess there's other hints within that too. She pulls up in a Jeep, and if you
that's true
thought
too.
back
Yeah, that's a good point.
to what happened, but you're not really thinking about those things.
Yeah, I was.
But if you
I never
know
did,
the fact you could go back,
Also, Steve Christie drives the exact same Jeep.
really,
Red herring. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. He
Yeah.
does.
okay,
It's just top up versus top down. That's the only difference.
okay,
That's I stopped paying attention to this.
huh? All right,
But yeah, so I mean, I think there's something to that. If they had maybe harped on the red herring of Steve Christie more, and maybe not shown him at the diner, but instead shown him like after a while, shown him like by his broken down car, that would have been enough. As much as I love the lady at the diner and I love the shot of the diner that we talked about during the stream, like it's a good shot. It's like it's
It
just
is.
very cinematic
It's
looking with
nice,
the word
yeah.
diner over shot.
Yeah.
It just looks great. And that lady, she's like just she's a character, she's a character actor doing a great character. But I would trade that in exchange for a good red herring that is genuinely set up as believably the killer for a majority of the film. But he's really not because of that. And I also don't know. Maybe the whole romantic angle with him and Alice is supposed to indicate that in some way, but the fact that she's not interested in sticking around for him,
maybe
so
it
stick
makes
around
him
through
make
Friday.
less trustworthy because we were talking about how much older he is.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, and the other thing, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think that anything we saw of him, even with Alice, is indicative of him being more than like the most you could assume is that he's a spurned lover and something.
His death was kind of a bummer.
And it was so quick.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna introduce you to this guy, and he's really like
It
his
makes it seem like he's
relationship
so
with Alice.
inconsequential.
Yeah, it really does because he's actually set up a couple times.
Yeah.
Because even when Annie is hitchhiking, it's talked about like, oh, this guy bought this, he put all this money into it. Why is he doing it? Then we get his whole scene with her where it's like this romantic, maybe kind of situation. It's the only kind of depth that we get. Then he disappears, and okay, maybe he's set up as a red herring. He's just in this random diner that's inconsequential, and then he just dies
Immediately upon
yeah, I
arrival.
mean, it's like,
I
man,
agree.
that's kind of a poor choice.
I wish that he logically, having talked about it right now, he seems like he could be a decent red herring, but it's not played well enough to where
It's
I
not.
got that in any of my viewings. And I've seen this a lot of times.
And he's also, like we've already mentioned, a little bit of like a creepy character when he's sort
Yeah.
of like brushing Alice's hair, and she doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be receptive and like kind of like shuns him a little bit. So like there's some nods there.
And he's going through her drawings and seems like he could
Yeah.
be jealous
Well, he's
or
being drawn by
Yeah.
her. So to me, that is like maybe part of the problem is that it's almost like they are in a relationship and she is done with the relationship.
Mhm.
And that might be enough like on paper to set him up as a potential killer, you know what I mean? But it just doesn't play that way. And the way, maybe it's the performance that just seems more forthright and less suspicious than it ought to be.
Maybe so.
Because look at the other kid, like look at fucking Ralph. You're telling me this guy couldn't have played it a little more sinister to maybe you couldn't have played it just sinister enough to be more believable as a potential killer. Maybe that's the problem. Okay.
okay, that's why you don't have the bumps anymore.
Dude!
That's why you don't have the bumps.
That's
anymore.
why, no other reason.
I've played like maybe 8 bumps in the past hour. Okay, that's not
Okay.
that bad. That's not that bad.
And all back to back just now.
Whatever. Gentlemen, I don't know. We kind of need to land the plane. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on though? I don't want to rush us here.
I could just wrap it up.
Did we spend enough time with the ending?
Yeah. When you want to take a huge shit,
Okay,
Rainey
yeah.
and I were talking about that a little bit. Is
Okay,
there anything
yeah,
else you want to mention? There?
Well, I don't know. During it, we were talking about how it changes visually. We were talking about the music. It changes visually. It changes
okay.
sonically.
the
It has
canoe
a-
scene we didn't really touch on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, do
Let's
we
talk about
want
that.
to?
Sure.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah,
about
do
that
it.
together.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I mean, one, the explanation is ridiculous. Why would you run away in a canoe?
Yeah.
But then also it does, I like the shot. I think the shot's beautiful because we spend most of the time during the day, I mean at night, we spend most of the time at night. There are a couple day shots, but they're not as vibrant.
Well,
As
you've
this
been
shot.
in the dark for so long at that point,
Like-
and in the rain.
And this one feels so vibrant, like the green in the trees, and then there's like a couple trees that are red.
And they're reflecting in the
It's
lake.
just a
Yeah,
beautiful
it is a-
scenery.
it
They
is a
don't
beautiful
spend time
shot.
on the scenery.
The
in
music
other shots.
changes very distinctly.
It
Yes.
does.
And this,
Yeah.
it's a really like I would like when I was watching it. I mentioned, and I said this on the stream, and also when I was watching with Bob, it reminds me of the film Hausu, which is heavily reliant musically on some like slow piano keys or whatever, like
But they're also
quietly
kind of uplifting.
fantastical, but
Yeah.
uplifting, but also sinister in some way.
Mhm.
And I think it does a great job at that. But like I said, the Manfredini's approach to that, we found out from bonus features after our first viewing
Mhm.
this week, was that he was not going to play music other than when the killer was around. At that point, the killer's dead. And so he's playing this music that is completely separate from anything else that you've heard so far in this film. It is another piece that he's written for something else. And he's playing this piano version, and it's used basically to lull you into a false sense of security so that they can quote unquote pull a Carrie and do a
Mhm.
fist jumping out of the dirt at you moment,
They
which
call-
is Jason jumping out of the water.
They reference that type of like jump scare ending as a seat jumper. is
Yeah,
what they
yeah,
call it.
yeah. They did
Yeah.
say that.
So that's what they were.
And
trying
you know,
to-
and
trying
yeah,
to-
that's pretty easy to tell. And Carrie, as far as I know, was the first major film to do that.
Mm.
And it's been
Mhm.
mimicked many times. So they were like building off of other things there. But
Do you
I
guys
love
know where
that.
they really like? Was this specifically to set up
No.
a kind of
No,
franchise?
not at all.
Well, okay, then I think it's a worse choice
Okay, why?
Oh yeah, explain.
because it's not until the very end that we even learn about this Jason situation.
Mhm.
So he's an inconsequential even name.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, he gives a motivation for our ultimate killer, who again we don't see, so we're not invested in any kind of real way. And so for it to happen, it's effective in that the kid's face is fucked.
Yeah.
But I mean, like,
Wow.
in an iconic kind of way.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that is memorable. Not only is he looks like a swamp
You need to
creature,
watch Goonies, mister.
but it's like her just be like, he's still out there, Jason. It's like, I didn't even know the name Jason until 10 minutes ago.
Right. Yeah.
So
I agree
through
with
this
you.
whole movie, like, why the fuck should I care that Jason's still out there?
Um,
Especially if you're sold that it's a dream. Because it's not like Jason was killing anybody. So
Uh-huh.
for her to be like, he's still out there, it's like
I
in the fucking lake.
I
Who
agree with
gives
you.
a shit.
I literally, so Rob, you could cover this actually because you used to watch the same thing I did.
Yeah. So I completely agree with you that it's not a particularly great choice
For a single movie.
for a single movie for sure. And basically everybody involved seemed to agree that like to bring back like a full-grown murderous Jason for a sequel would not make sense. Like nobody really was on board for that because it just didn't make sense. It didn't
Cunningham
jive.
was not anyway.
Yeah,
certainly.
he refused to direct the sequel because it was a stupid idea.
And yeah, and
Um,
the idea of it is like, well, he's in the lake, so is he supernatural all of a
Yeah.
sudden? And is he
Yeah.
still 9 years old? What's happening? Well, that was his.
Yeah, they're like,
thing,
what is it?
kinda.
What is he just like eating fish out of the pond and
Yeah,
like not
so
communicating with his mother
peculiar.
for 20 years?
But the allure of the seat jumper moment
Right, yeah.
was too much for them,
And
and,
then-
they did it, and the way they justified it themselves. Savini took credit for this. It seemed like a couple people took credit for this.
Yeah.
But Savini was the one that was like, I suggested that, let's put her out on the lake. You can say anything's happening if it's just a dream.
Yeah, so like
It's,
the writer
yeah.
Victor Miller takes credit for it. Tom Savini also takes credit for it. I feel like Sean Cunningham might also take some credit for it. It's like I'm sure they were all just like talking and probably came to the idea like together, but they all individually take like full credit.
They all think that they like came up with it.
yeah.
Or,
so-
or
and
at
like
least are willing to say so.
if this was a one-off movie, I wouldn't really hate the ending. I'd be like, it's a little bit weak, but also it leaves it open ended.
That's kind of how I feel.
was she
about it,
dreaming
is it's not
or
it's not a
not?
smart ending, but it's a scary ending to
Yeah.
a scary movie.
But then
Like,
when you see part 2 and all of a
Dumb but
sudden Jason
effective.
is full grown and absolutely alive as fuck and was never dead, then
Yes.
like why did part 1 ever happen?
yes.
Like what? It doesn't make any
Yes.
sense. I don't know. The problem, I don't know. There's several problems with the ending here. It just is what it is. I do want to ask you guys, like before we totally land the plane, like I feel like we've all seen all the Friday the 13th movies. Justin, I don't know if you have or
I
not.
haven't seen.
You've seen up
Actually,
to 8.
I still have not seen Jason X.
Okay.
Still haven't
Oh,
seen
really?
that one. I know that, and I didn't finish the remake.
Okay, that's fine.
Those might be the two that I'm out on.
I wanted to just ask, what is your favorite Friday the 13th movie? You don't. I'll let Randy kick it off. So
Okay.
you can.
I
say.
think I know.
I'm not sure that I know. It's been a while since I've seen several of them,
Okay.
so it's tough for me. I'm going off of kind of old knowledge of a lot of it when I was like maybe newly 20 or something, and I'm an old piece of shit now. So I don't know. It might. Part of me wants to say Freddy versus Jason.
Dude,
you
that
can
shit's
Honestly,
fun.
because it is the comic book version of Jason that is
So
essentially the core of so many of its sequels, and it fulfills the promise that so many of those sequels do not, of just violence, nonsense, stupidity, and it also does build on the lore slightly, and I gotta give it credit for that. And it's not completely incomprehensible lore. You know, it could have been a lot fucking stupider than that, and it certainly had been. Like, I do not care for the lore of Jason Goes to Hell, for example.
Mhm.
Do not care for that. I do not care for, you know, not Jason with a hockey mask and Jason, what is it? A New Beginning. I do not. I think, you know, it's either that or I think probably, you know what? Thinking about it, I think my go-to answer is probably the truest one, and that's part 6.
Mhm.
Jason Lives, because that kind of kicks off that whole aesthetic of
Yeah.
him being
Yeah.
not just like it just distills everything down to its most base components and makes it a fucking bouillon cube of slasher horror. And I kind of love how silly it becomes at that point.
Part 6 is where they fully embrace these supernatural aspects
Yeah.
of Jason, which is not slasher for me. I disagree in that, but that's where
Well,
they fully jump the shark is in part 6 and embrace it, and I love it for that.
Yeah, it becomes sillier at that
Yeah.
point is kind of the thing. It stops taking any level of seriousness in its
Yeah.
premise. And that's when I say that, like earlier, that this is a franchise that doesn't look backward. That is when that is truly crystallized, is when they like, you know what? He's a ghost boy who can do anything. And he will die dozens and dozens of times, but never truly die. Because at that point, fucking Freddy is already doing that. And they're like, you know what? These movies make money. We want to keep making these fucking movies. I'm tired of coming up with excuses. Let's just say that the boy is fucking a ghost boy and call it a day. He's a fucking zombie man. He's a deadite who will kill and beat the shit out of you and put you in the fucking river and just beat your ass in a fucking sleeping bag until you're dead. And that's all he has to be. That's all people want. And we've distilled it down. We have like pulled the extract out of this fucking thing.
Out of its ass. Also, we got Alice Cooper on the ones and twos.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
theme
Too.
song.
That theme
Holy
song
shit.
is fucking hilarious.
Can't remember the theme song on part 6.
He's back.
The man behind the mask.
Part 6 for Randy Juice. What is your favorite Friday the 13th?
I was thinking like the even numbers are on point for me.
Uh-huh.
2, 4, 6
Uh-huh.
are bangers.
Uh-huh.
Bangers.
I like 3.
I mean, I'm not saying anything against even like 1 and 3, but to think about 2, 4, 6, I think like 2, maybe I was trying, you know, like going to the previous ones. 4 introduces old Bobby Jarvis over here. I was gonna say maybe 6 too, but those 3 stand out.
Mhm.
2, 4, 6 kind of shine. of the ones, I'm familiar with. I always liked one. For some reason,
like
this
that.
viewing had the most negative kind of feelings to me.
How long
And
has it
I,
been since you've seen it?
I
we talked
think
about
I
this.
might, it was either last summer or the summer before. So
Okay,
it's
so
in
it's
a
not so
2-year
long
window,
ago,
not
man.
so long ago, but I was watching it by myself,
Right.
specifically for the summer at the beginning of the summer again. So I don't know.
Maybe you're just thinking more critically this time.
I think because the podcast, I was thinking more critically. I don't 2, 4, and 6 are banger. I think I was gonna say 6 too.
I like-
That one is fun as fuck. The
It's just
kills
fun.
are just outrageous. Dude, for
Is that the
imp-
enchiladas one or is that?
That's the enchiladas one.
Yeah, good.
for the impotent hunter though.
The
my
impotent
God.
A bit.
Those are
oh,
and
man.
fucking killer
I hope I'm
ass
buried with that title.
Jarvis, dude.
Yeah.
That I mean, there's some good shit in that one too. So
Dude, the
it's-
Jarvis one, yeah, the new oh man.
It's crazy to me that at part 4, now I know I like Halloween part 4 too, but I mean, by the time part 4 comes around in most franchises, it's already dog shit. And I
Yeah.
love that this franchise kind of
It gets
transcends.
It just does not give a shit at a certain
Yeah.
point. And I think that point is part 6.
and it just
truly.
throws like crazy shit at the wall, and you're like, okay.
because the real promise that audiences
Not
want
the worm. Not
is
the worm.
yeah, the worm. Yeah.
Not the worm.
Well, the
What's
worm
that?
kind of undoes a
Is that
lot.
7?
goes to
That's-
hell, part 9.
Nine, yeah.
Jesus.
That was such a failure that they then did in space.
I will say one bit
That's-
of interesting trivia. The only Friday the 13th movie that does not have nudity in it is part 6.
Is it?
Yeah. It's
So
the
it
only-
doesn't get
That
your
seems
half
wild
star.
to me.
It's the only one, yeah. And it's fucking baller. You don't need it. You really don't need it. I don't know. I feel like when somebody asks me what Friday the 13th movie, if they're gonna watch one, they're gonna watch one and only one.
Yeah.
Like mandatory viewing for me is 4. I always say you gotta
Yeah.
watch 4.
Okay, yeah, that's the most lore heavy
Yeah.
and also
It-
salient and prescient for Jason as a character.
It fully embodies Friday the 13th, except for the fact the only thing it's missing is that he's not killing campers or camp counselors.
Mm.
He's
Yeah.
killing people on vacation.
That's
That's
fair.
the only
That's
thing that it's
fair.
missing. But it's like it's got full on Jason with a hockey mask without the cheese of part 3 because there's no gimmick with the 3D.
Kind of love the cheese part.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta go with 4.
Dude,
I
the
think
kills at 6 though. Man.
That's the
the,
thing.
the kills in
And the
6
thing
are
is,
fantastic.
that is truly the thing. I think that what we're circling around, or at least for me, is just that the kills are this franchise, like the insanity of the kills, and it ramps up because it's just the natural progression. You with sequels, you want to build on what's come before. So the first one is by its very nature going to lack in that department of its most definitive aspect, which is its gory, insane slasher kills.
Yeah.
And the rest of the franchise never fails to do at least that. Even Jason X, even Jason Goes to Hell, they are extremely gory. There are at least attempts at inventive kills. That is the promise that they're giving to the audience, and that is what's so stable about it. When we talk about it being Waffle House of fucking horror, that's what I mean. It can be smothered, it can be with peppers, but it's still the fucking base level that you want.
Every time you hit the table,
And that is
we
the
all
real.
hear it. We all hear
Ah.
it. So loud.
That's fine, Brandy. You got one
I have a
episode
lot of points to make.
here in Jacksonville. That's a classic. Bang
It
on
is.
the
It
table.
is a
That is
classic.
classic.
We all bang on tables in Duval.
Yes, we do. To
We
completion.
got to land this plane here.
Land
Let's
it,
go
Mom.
ahead and rate Friday the 13th out of 5 stars. Juice, please kick us off. How do you feel?
This one's tough, kind of, because I can't help but think of this franchise. And this franchise is so wild and so all over the place and follows its own kind of rules and transcend, like kind of breaks all kind of molds and just does its own thing and is so respectable in so many ways. I've seen this film, as I said, for some reason, this one felt a little like bittersweet, the end of kind of a summer season. Finally kind of getting to this classic, but also knowing that we've covered some of the other kind of maybe better ones in this franchise before on this cast. It's a weird kind of position. I found myself being more critical of this one and maybe just having those other part sixes and part twos and part fours in my mind while we were watching this. I was more critical, but I can't knock like this space that kind of occupies in my heart in a way. I know that's, but I mean,
It's touching.
it's just this franchise is pretty solid. And to kick it off this way is very intriguing. They took a lot of swings and it's gone through a lot of interesting history. So the positives, the music, the setting, the kind of wild swings that they take with like the ending and the authentic feeling of kind of the kids, what they're doing, what they're saying. It's not important, but they're teenagers. So
What they do, what they say.
Yeah.
Mother.
Oh my God.
Let him finish.
Interrupting.
Mm-hmm.
Shameful.
I don't know. This is a classic. And it kicked off a huge horror franchise. I don't think it's a perfect 5 though, but it's mainly because I can't get this franchise out of my head. And I think now reflecting, there's other ones that I like better. And so I'm like, well, I can't give that 5-star then, but I respect it too much to give it too low. So I'm like at a war with myself. I'm very deep.
War with me.
I'll give this one.
We're all
I know,
waiting
I
on
know.
pins and needles.
My bated
I'll
breath
give
has
this
something
one
to say.
a 4 out of 5.
All right. Does that include the half-star for the Albos or
Oh
not?
shit. Nope. Let me give the half-star for the Albos. 4.5.
4.5.
The principle
Five.
holds true.
I'm a man of my code.
You're lucky that it was just the imprint of Kevin
I
Bacon's
didn't
dick,
even, I forgot about the
or
Yabos,
else
to be
you have to
honest.
subtract it right back.
I forgot about the Yabo.
Yabo.
You singular
Call it
Yabo.
4.25.
Quarter star.
No,
Quarter
I'm a
star.
man of,
All
I'm a
right.
man of
All
principle.
right.
You're a man of faith. I have
It
faith in
depends
the
on your
Yabo.
interpretation. I mean, the lawyers could parse that if you
Oh,
really
I guess
wanted
it would
them
be
to.
nice.
If I could touch you.
So, okay, with so
You get on point with your parodies.
Yeah,
But Jason's mom got me too. Jason's mom is gonna kill your friends.
So with the half-star for the Yabo, Bob, out of 5. Oh no, but the half-star for the Yabo, I give it 4.5. Bob, out of 5, what are you giving the OG Friday the 13th?
This movie is like classic American filmmaking. Like when you think of a horror movie, a lot of people typically think slashers, and when they think slashers, they often typically think of like summer camp slashers, and that is because of this fucking movie. So it's like extremely iconic, especially when you're talking about like American filmmaking. It's like it carries a lot of fucking weight. And I think a lot of that has to do with the success of its sequels as well. I don't think all of that just is about like this original movie. All that weight is not carried on this original movie's shoulders by any means, because we don't really get Jason. We just don't. I do think this is extraordinarily important though in like the history of like American filmmaking. It does a lot with a little. There's not a whole lot going on in the script until we see the very end, which definitely had to be inspired by Psycho. It had to be. They just flipped it on its head a little bit. There's some solid practical effects in this. Big shouts outs to Tom Savini. He got hired on this movie because he did Dawn of the Dead just before, and they were like, yeah, that man knows what he's fucking doing. So they gave him the job.
Even though he made the zombies blue.
He made the zombies. It's like a gray blue. Yeah. But anyway, there's some good blood and guts in there. I love Crazy Ralph. Like he is the most iconic character in this movie for me. Like even more than like Pamela Voorhees even more than like Alice. For like that's the motherfucker that I remember for some reason. And he comes back in the sequel, and he's in it just about as much as Alice is. You know, like he's got the same hang time as anybody else does in this fucking franchise, other than Jason, of
I
course.
love that phrasing.
Like, I don't know. I love that character in like the beginnings of that sort of harbinger trope. I love seeing that here in Crazy Ralph. Also, like, we didn't mention that Crazy Ralph is married. Like, to who? Like, he has a
I
life.
gotta think she's like in a fucking iron lung with
What?
polio
Yeah.
or some shit. Other like
It's a small town.
Yeah. What's happening in
I guess I'm
Crazy
stuck
Ralph's?
with Ralph for the rest of
life.
my
In
fucking
Hope, New
life.
Jersey.
Yeah, I love the vibe. I love the setting. I love the score. Fucking Friday the 13th has such an incredible score that actually does improve in the sequels as well. Like as the kills often do, like the sequel grows with it and evolves and it gets sick nasty. I really am a big fan of that. Also like the thing, like everybody knows what that is. Everybody.
Well,
It just about everybody. It's similar to Jaws in that it's so simple of a theme, like you can't forget it. You know exactly what it is when you hear it. There are some questionable actions taken by Alice in this film. The jump scare at the end is also questionable, and like the insane retcon in the sequels just sort of makes it even more glaring of an error. So I mean, this is not a home run, but I respect the hell out of it. It's definitely like it's standing on the shoulders of giants and just like is able to do even more than they were able to do, I think. Specifically with the sequels, not necessarily with this movie exactly, but
yeah, that's what's difficult.
so like
I don't know about that.
no, well, you're
I know.
next up. You're next
I
up.
know.
I can't give this a 5. I think I'm gonna give this a solid 4, a 4 out of 5.
Okay, so if you were a man of principle like me, it would be a 4.5.
Man of your principle.
Yeah.
Why don't you keep the principles of your goddamn self?
I'm gonna give Friday the 13th 4 out of 5. Randy, how do you feel?
So, you know, I am trying to be as objective as possible with this. This is a movie that
Well, I love how we all treat this like a child. Like,
what?
well, just like I'm trying to be as objective as
No, I
possible.
am.
Yeah.
Like that what I'm gonna get to is that I kind of feel like you guys are letting this movie's reputation affect your scoring. And I am going to try not to do that.
Okay.
You're trying to like it's almost like the franchise is being scored more than the
Yeah, well, it's
film.
hard not to
I
give this
know,
one credit.
and I'm not
for
gonna
it,
and
yeah.
I'm not gonna neglect the franchise either. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, because it has a lot to do with that. But taking this movie as its own, I think that it's a fucking good movie. It's one of my favorite Friday the 13th movies, and it might even be like top 3. It's very very possible that it's top 3. So I think that for me, this movie, I think it does. It's not Freddy in the I'm sorry, Jason in the Mask. It doesn't have those things. It doesn't have those tropes established that are so iconic. It doesn't have every established thing that we think of when we think of Friday the 13th. But it does a few things. The Harbinger being a main one. That is a standard. That is a trope that is so widely used as to be fucking laughable. Like, it is insane how many fucking Harbingers are in not just slasher movies, but all kinds of fucking horror movies. And I want to make sure that we give credit to things like that, things like the idea of red shirts. You know, like this movie does, like you said, stand on the shoulders of giants, but it is definitely a giant in its own right. And like so many goddamn movies stand on the shoulders of this one.
True.
So I think that like it's a natural progression. It is a rung in a ladder that leads to people's current understanding of, not even necessarily current, but like leads to people's generalized, not necessarily informed in opinion or understanding of what a horror movie is in America. And I think that's super, super fucking important. That's unimpeachably true. I think that the movie has its place in history. It's such a big place in history. I think that it's a flawed movie, though. I don't think that it's a perfect movie. I think that I love some of the stuff about it. I could gush about a lot of it. But things like, if I'm taking it purely at face value, the character of Alice, who is our central pivotal character, who's our final girl, makes so many dumb mistakes that eventually became tropes themselves for a lot of movies that then became subverted and resubverted and unsubverted and all those things. But it establishes so much of that. The dropping of a pivotal weapon that she could use, using like just scrambling and throwing fucking yarn at the killer as a method of defense instead of the butt of the fucking rifle you just dropped. Like shit like that, or like fucking closing curtains instead of barricading fucking windows. Like there's a lot of dumb shit that she does as
Dude,
a
that
character.
piano's heavy.
That piano is perfectly movable by any adult person. Anyway, especially one with the fucking motivation of not dying. So these are, to me, taking it purely as its own movie, I think that it's tough to focus on a central character. There's not a great point of view character. She, like, as much as I think that a lot of these characters are so believable, and so like their conversations when they're having a normal time are so normal that when they make dumb decisions, it seems fucking mega dumb. And it's tough to ignore that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I know that that's a trope, but that wasn't necessarily a trope at this time. In Halloween, that wasn't the standard. This movie established that standard. This franchise established that standard because of that. So I'm not going to sit as an audience member in 1980 watching this film and think, well, yeah, of course she's going to like run with her arms flailing like that. That's what all the protagonists of these movies do, because there were no all these fucking movies.
Yeah.
So I think that those sort of things really matter. There's not somebody that I can centrally focus on. And even the killer, as much as I love the reveal of Pamela, not having, enough red herrings, not having the giallo level of like who done it. There's a little bit of who done it feeling, but they do not revel in it. They mostly focus on teenagers being half dressed and fucking. And that is a trope itself, but it wasn't at this time. Anyway, there's a lot of things about this that we look at as normal now that were not at the time, that, for better or for worse, impacted the franchise and thus the understanding of horror movies. And I think that it is both for good and bad. I think that this movie is purely standing on its own merits, not for the franchise, is a 3.5 for me, because I really do like it and I like a lot about it, but the characters are not written well. They're acted well, not written well. The score is good. The setting is cool. The plot is dumb.
With Randy's 3.5, that's going to give us a 4 aggregate. Let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Friday the 13th.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment where I'm going to give these two gentlemen the chance to guess, within the best of their abilities, the aggregate scores of both critics and users of Friday the 13th, 1980 on RottenTomatoes.com. Let's start with our critic score. There are 55 reviews counted, which is much lower than I anticipated. And we're going to start with Juice today on the critic side. 55 reviews. What do you think the aggregate is for this film?
That is surprisingly low.
Yeah, I mean, it's an older movie, and that's not often the case, but
Yeah, this is such a classic. This one's hard to gauge. Man, I think I just got to rely on the 69 dudes to get me through.
we all do sometimes.
So I really don't know where this is going to fall, because it does, like you said, with your own, scoring, this movie is open to legitimate critiques and flaws. It's got them, but it's also so iconic,
You want to overlook them.
and timeless. Yeah, so
That doesn't mean
so I'm 69 dudes.
69 dudes. All right. I don't have a bump to play, but it's in your heart.
60.
Bob, how about you? Where are you falling on this one?
69 dudes.
Bob's got 3 bumps.
And they will be used.
I feel like it's going to be higher than that. I'm going to take an 80%.
80%. All right. Well, that was a mistake.
Fuck.
Juice is pretty damn close. It's a 64%.
Damn.
64% consensus.
Oh, can I get a hell yeet?
Well done. That was a good
Oh, I'm
bump.
sorry, that's
Good
not
bump.
on the behind the scenes.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
That's a good bump. So yeah, the critics' consensus is as follows. Or should I just do let's do the
Let's do
audience
the
score
audience,
first.
okay.
So audience score, let's start with you, Bob. There are 100,000 plus reviews
Holy
in the audience score segment.
Shit.
You tell me
That's
what
a
that
shitload.
translates to for you.
75.
70? Oh wow, right off the bat.
do it.
Soju?
Shit.
All right.
I won't do it.
75. That's a sweet, sweet spot to be.
So fucking
I'm gonna
sweet.
take the high end and
So
hope that the
fucking-
audience cares about this movie more. 64. That's such a shame. I'll take a scotch higher and go for a hell yeet sweep with an 80%.
So 75 and 80, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So mistake on your part, Soju. It's a 60%.
Oh
flat.
no.
Yeah, I
Oh,
agree.
no. Wow, that's so much lower on both ends than I would have thought.
That is
I
crazy.
know,
That's
I thought the same
surprising.
thing. That
It
is surprising.
is.
So here's what the critics' consensus reads on RottenTomatoes.com. Rather quaint by today's standard, Friday the 13th still has its share of bloody surprises and a 70s holdover aesthetic to slightly compel.
What?
I don't
It
know if I
deserves
buy
better
it.
than that.
I think it deserves better than that as well.
Yeah. I would not
Mm,
call this movie quaint.
No.
I would, but I would not like the phrasing of this is not
It's
very
better
generous.
than that. It's better than that.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
come on.
It's quaint by today's standards. I think that's fair to say. Today's standards are fucking insane.
That's true.
You've seen Hostel.
okay.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but the movie
Today's standards.
Yeah, but it's still-
Hostel.
Yeah, what like torture porn was a legitimate standard for many years, and Hostel kicked that
Yeah.
shit right into the teeth.
I mean, I get it.
Not
I
today's
get it.
standards. That was like
Oh,
2008.
okay, well,
I just don't want it to be true.
I don't
Yeah,
want it to be
that's
true either. I
unfortunate.
think it's unfortunate, but I think that part is not the part I take issue with. I think to me the part is that it's like 70s holder aesthetic to slightly compel. It's like it's compelling enough. It's a kind of a whodunit. It's fun. And
It's
it has cool
compelling
ki-
because everybody knows
and the characters
about
are
it.
reasonably not interesting, but reasonably relatable to
Yeah.
me. Like, they're not greatly written, but they are able to act in a way that is becoming of a regular person,
I think
except for Ralph, who is hilariously out of place, and that's what makes him great.
I think the most unfortunate thing is I have to give a hell ski.
Yeah, you do.
See how much fervor I gave that, Bob?
You gave it a lot of fervor.
That's
I
the
know.
sign of a true showman.
That's the sign of
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
with their own
A showman.
code.
Yeah. Okay.
A
Randy,
man with
read
a
us a dog
code.
shit review. You got a dog shit
Oh,
review on
well, I just closed it.
that? Type.
No.
Or don't. You don't have to.
I'm gonna have to pull it back up if I do.
Okay. Well, we'll just.
Scott Bonerman from
Scott Bonerman
says,
He
Farted
says-
on this podcast. I mean, movie.
Oh, that's Bob's trauma coming
It
up
says-
from a legitimate negative review of this podcast.
Scott Bonerman says, fart on the balls of this podcast.
Here's a negative.
Bonerman.
Okay, here's random negative. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
It may be one of the most famous, but it's certainly not an original on which others are based. That is purely fucking wrong. It's just
That's
wrong.
so
That is
wrong.
the wrongest fucking negative review I have ever heard.
Scott Bonerman
That is
doesn't know what the fuck he's
demonstrably
talking about.
bullshit. Scott Bonerman can suck his own bone.
Soju Stain says, fart on the balls of this critic.
That is somebody who does not do their research. Fucking Empire Magazine, really? Get the fuck out of here.
Scott Bonerman.
Don't fart on my balls, no.
All right, it's totally time for trivia.
You sped that shit up.
That's
It's only time for trivia.
That's the double time version.
Somebody doesn't have time to waste.
Bob, you are taking over trivia this
Uh-huh.
week. What you got?
Read them.
I got some shit.
Did you turn it a
And,
spicy game?
I'll see if I can make
How
some questions as
spicy
we go.
is it?
The first one's definitely not question worthy. So this movie was filmed at a camp called Novi Bosco in New Jersey. The camp is still in operation. They have a wall that just commemorates Friday the 13th memorabilia bullshit. The film made $39 million on a budget of $550,000.
Wow, that's great.
Harry
30
Crosby.
minute broadcast is how much this movie made.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just give me a second. Harry Crosby, we mentioned
Bob
this
Zoom.
briefly. He actually is the son of Bing Crosby. I was off. on
Oh,
that.
you went back and forth on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
He is the son. My bad. So there was a very famous rock star that lived next door to the filming location. I don't know. Take a stab. Who do you guys think lived next door to the
In
the
New
filming
Jersey?
location? In New Jersey. Yeah.
Is it a
Springsteen would not make sense, although Jersey.
is it a musician?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a well-known like
You
rock
know what?
star.
I'm just gonna go because
Oh,
he
you
is
said
Jersey. I'm
rock
just gonna go
star.
Springsteen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right. It's too rural for him. But I'm gonna go with it.
1979 when they filmed this. Yeah.
Bob Dylan.
Springsteen, Bob Dylan, getting in the ballpark actually. So it was Lou Reed.
Okay.
Gun.
I got a gun.
Yeah,
I know how to use
I
it.
have a
I
gun.
know how to use it. He owned a farm that was nearby, and apparently he would just like hang out and like play fucking guitar when they were filming this fucking.
Well, that's
movie.
goddamn amazing.
How incredible is that? Like he
It's
would
quite.
you just hang around with these fucking teenagers
I
and
think
like
he wants to see what it can do.
you're
I-
god.
I think he wants to see
See.
Marcy's nipples.
Yeah, well, yeah,
He says that he'll blow your brains out.
yeah.
With a gun.
We mentioned this briefly anyway. The snake that they chop up was a real snake. Unfortunately,
yeah.
they actually
R.I.P. Snake.
killed that snake. Sean
Be dead
Cunningham
anyways.
was so sure that just the title Friday the 13th would sell this movie that he took out a full page ad in Variety over the 4th of July weekend 1979 to pick up financing, and it worked. The financiers behind The Last House on the Left contacted him and offered to cover the entire budget of the film.
Damn.
Based on the fucking title?
Well,
Yeah,
here's what I
just the
want to
ad,
know.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm curious about.
Okay.
So Friday the 13th now is known as kind of a negative, taboo, superstitious kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Was that the case before? I assume this was
Yeah,
the case
yes.
before this movie was.
It
picked
was
up.
recognizable. And
That's why it was recognizable.
Okay,
there's like
that's interesting.
debatable roots as to why that's recognizably like an inauspicious
Yeah.
day.
Uh-huh.
Some of it goes back to like biblical stuff
Really?
with like Good
Oh,
Friday.
yeah, Friday the 13th is when Noah dropped the tablets. I heard that.
Noah, yeah, 100%. Anyway, I don't know that there's like a definitive origin story, but like Friday the 13th was known before this movie
Okay,
came out.
that's curious.
Victor Miller's working title for the script was Long Night at Camp Blood.
That makes a lot of sense.
The two Jeeps in the film were indeed the exact same Jeep. It was model number 1972 CJ5.
I was wondering.
Riveting. Yeah.
Hey,
Why wasn't that a question for us to answer? Come on. Give me
Mar-
my car guy knowledge.
Marcy does some sort of impression when she's in the bathhouse,
Ah, yeah.
which was of Katharine Hepburn. The lines that she's delivering is it's
Of
from
who?
Catherine
Catherine Hepburn.
Okay.
Catherine Hepburn.
No,
The shit she's saying is from The
Catherine.
Rainmaker, 1956.
Huh.
Sean Cunningham has gone on the record as saying that he doesn't believe the whole like sinners must be punished type thing that a lot of slasher films seem to support. Instead, he just sees it as like bad things happening to good people for no reason. Cunningham also didn't like Gene Siskel's complaint that the film was misogynistic and that Cunningham is a little bit tougher on the girls in this movie than he is on the guys.
I mean, the
totally
only
agree with
survivor
that.
is a woman.
Yeah,
Well, it's not even just that. Like the women in this movie are pretty self-possessed.
true. Yeah.
Like none of them are pawns.
Yeah, if anything, males and females are killed and treated equally.
The killer is a woman.
Yeah. I feel like fucking Siskel just shits on
That
horror
shit down.
movies, and he's like heavy on the record of just shitting on horror movies, and he treated this
Oh, yeah.
movie very
Especially
much
early on.
Crazy Ralph was originally called Ralphie Rat Boy in an earlier script.
He's got a death curse.
Sean Cunningham cut his teeth in the industry directing softcore porn, and then eventually transitioned into horror with fellow porn director Wes Craven. Sean Cunningham, the director of
the
this
director,
movie.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. He produced the 1971 horror classic Last House on the Left. So Craven and Cunningham had a working relationship before this movie and after this movie. So that's kind of interesting.
Kind of dope.
Although everyone compares this to Halloween, even screenwriter Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham have admittedly said they're ripping off Halloween when developing this. This movie bears a resemblance to another movie from 1945. It's called Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None is the title of the film.
Aggie wrote this?
Yeah, I've never seen this. It's a detective mystery, and apparently it's considered one of the original slasher movies.
I would like to see that a
I-
lot.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. There's like a remote house and a prophecy at the beginning with like a harbinger,
No
and
shit.
then people get picked off one by one. So it's kind of interesting to hear about that.
Soju,
Kevin, are you pouring the Malort?
he's pouring the fucking Malort.
I cannot. I
You have
cannot.
drunk to the point of recklessness.
I cannot believe you're doing that. I literally cannot believe.
Stop that shit.
Two are already full.
Get
Can't
you a
stop
funnel,
now.
dude, because this shit's going back in the
If we're gonna drink that, I have to have a chaser. Like, it
finish
is
the trivia. We got a lot to
required.
cover.
Yeah. Kevin Bacon shaved his armpits for the bedroom scene.
Attaboy, bacon, my man.
I don't want hair on my bacon. I want that shit like fucking just flesh on flesh, just slapping,
Jesus.
just fucking slap happy. That's what I
Flesh
want.
on flesh is
Uh,
distressing. as a
Film critic
phrase.
Gene Siskel was notoriously prudish and dismissive of horror movies. He rarely, if ever, gave horror movies good reviews, including Jaws, Alien, and Academy Award winner Silence of the Lambs. He gave them all shit reviews. He gave this movie 0 stars, revealing the ending, and even published Betsy Palmer's incorrect address, imploring his readers write letters in protest of what they had just seen, quote, a cleaver in the forehead movie. Motherfucker, 0 stars on this movie, publishing actresses' actual addresses.
That's
Fucking-
fucked.
That guy can
fucked up.
Fuck that guy.
every part of my asshole.
Let's beat
The
it.
fattest, wettest part he can get him.
That's fucked up.
Those groceries.
He also went on to say Sean Cunningham is one of the most despicable creatures that has ever infested the film
Oh,
industry. That's some fucking heavy shit.
Who is this?
Siskel.
What's his address?
I don't know. I just don't know. The scene where Bill plays guitar, Harry Crosby is actually playing his own guitar off screen.
Oh damn.
Steve Miner is the only person that has crossed over from Friday the 13th to the Halloween franchise. So Steve
Oh.
Miner directed Friday the 13th
right.
Part 2 and also directed Halloween H2O. So that's pretty fucking cool. Please get me a beer or a water or something.
Give me something that's not alcoholic, please.
Jesus Christ.
Hopefully something that dulls the senses.
So this bit of trivia is specifically talking about the ongoing lawsuit. In January 2021, 41 years after the film was released, Friday the 13th producer Sean Cunningham launched a new lawsuit over net profits from the horror franchise. According to a complaint filed on Thursday in Los Angeles Superior Court, the studio distributing the films have systematically misaccounted contingent compensation. Cunningham is already engaged in a battle with writer Victor Miller over rights. So this is a second lawsuit here.
Jesus Christ.
Now pending a ruling at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. That case involves important copyright and labor issues and has delayed any reboot, new sequels, and any other derivative works. As fans patiently wait the conclusion there, Cunningham is throwing himself into another big battle, this one against Warner Bros. And Paramount Pictures with, quote, Hollywood accounting in the first lines, and talk about Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, quote, apparently lost money. So Hollywood accounting is like an ongoing thing that I've been hearing a lot about, where like it's big studios obviously throw out like these movies that are cash cows, that are summer blockbusters, that literally there's no way they have lost money, but through fancy accounting they
Dude,
will
that's a
claim they
thing.
have lost money.
I mean, there's like, I know that the Hobbit movies have a lot of crazy shit going on behind them, and
Really?
that may very well factor into some of that. And that's just from off the top of my head. That's crazy.
Yeah. So hopefully they get that
But
shit
don't worry.
wrapped up.
Feldman says it's all wrapped up.
Yeah, Feldman doesn't know what he's fucking talking
I
about.
don't think Feldman.
No
knows
shade
what
on
the fuck he's-
Feldman, really, because I love that.
I like
dude,
Feldman, but
yeah.
Jesus
I'll throw
Christ.
some shade on Phil.
Says the man that just poured Malort.
This man just poured
shots.
Malort for people he supposedly cares about.
Says the man who
Uh,
bought the bottle
Yeah,
I got-
and wants to drink it at
I
his
never
wedding.
purported to care for anyone.
There's enough. There's enough for the wedding, Randy.
I got two more real quick hitters. The killer of this movie is just named Miss Voorhees. Her first name is not revealed as Pamela until the shot of her grave is shown in part 4, the final chapter.
Oh,
I didn't realize
wow,
that.
that's
And-
interesting.
Finally, there are 10 deaths in this movie if you don't count the snake and you don't count Jason because he's obviously not dead. You see Barry, Claudette, Annie, Ned, Jack, Marcy, Brenda, Steve, Bill, and Pamela Voorhees all die in this movie.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
10 deaths. That is all the
More than it
trivia
seems.
I got. Are we gonna fucking take the shot now, or like, what are we fucking gonna do? I'm not really stoked about it.
I'm not super into it.
Oh my god.
It's, all right,
Y'all's a bunch of haters.
We're all together. We gotta take a
It's
shot.
Jepson's
of
Malort.
Says the man that bought the bottle.
Yeah, not for
Dude.
tonight.
when you smell it,
I got everyone a chaser. The boys are back.
it
The
smells.
boys.
It will clean porcelain. Like
Okay.
if I poured it in a toilet.
So let's all just take.
There's
a
only one
shot
toilet in this
together.
house. I'm just gonna point that.
We
out.
all have a chaser.
all right.
Okay.
All right.
This
God.
is a straight chillin'. This is for G baby.
This is G Baby's fault.
All right.
All right, real quick.
Fair winds and following seas.
Oh, revel in how terrible it tastes. I'm not taking the chaser.
Ah!
The shot. It's terrible.
It's still so bad. Oh my god.
It tastes
Wow.
like rejection from your mom.
Oh my god.
Dude, it is so disgusting. Oh yeah.
It's worse than I remember it. It's worse.
It really does taste like
Every
I clean
pore
her.
in my
worse.
body just puckered like a fucking lemon mouth.
The chaser's coming.
God.
The
damn.
chaser is not helping.
It did nothing. I only taste Malort. I only taste Malort.
Do better, Coca-Cola.
Jesus
Tic
Christ.
Tac saved me.
Also, Corey needed a little taste of them all over there.
Corey, how's that hitting you? You like that? Is that
That is disgusting.
it's heinous.
It's like
It
the,
is.
probably the worst thing you put in your mouth.
I can't.
Not
It is
so
as
far.
unique as it is terrible.
You're kind enough to be here taking pictures of us, and then we feed you dog shit liquor. Like,
He was excited to try.
What chemical product would you compare it to?
Have you ever had Everclear?
No, I haven't.
It's
Dude,
like the
it's-
same thing.
It's still in my mouth.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
No, you know what? You get that last.
oh yeah, tic tac me, tic tac Diddy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Mm,
You nunnies.
mm.
Oh my god,
I got a
Yeah.
shit.
There's no controlling this
Right.
fucking thing.
Taking them all back.
You don't get that many, bish.
All right, we got you know what time it is? It's time to go hunting. We're talking cooter of the week.
Dude, this week's Cooter of the Week is sponsored by
Jepson's Malort! Cooter fuel.
Oh my god.
Tastes like a family funeral.
Don't drink that shit. We have made this shit famous, unfortunately.
We have not made this.
We
shit.
have made this
Single-handedly.
Jepson's Malort.
You know what's genuinely baffling is that like there's an eighth of this bottle, maybe a sixth of this bottle. Like where did it go?
3 shots went into my horrible tainted
Brad
mouth.
drank some.
Brad is fucked
We've
up.
made this-
Let's not make a point
Yeah.
of like spending this time going over people drinking.
All
All
right,
right, yeah. What's a cooter while we hunt them?
Cooter is a straight chillin' exclusive and a character type.
Uh-huh.
Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter. We want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. I remembered all that super drunk, so that's awesome. Boys, who wants to
Congrats.
nominate the cooter this week?
Bob, you got one in mind? 'Cause let me think here. I there's a little bit to be said about I forget his name, Steve Christie,
Steve Christie, the owner of the camp.
and that's only on the basis that these are teenagers, and he is clearly like a 35, 40-year-old porn star.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I also don't think that like there are no teenage actors in this film, so it's
But
tough to kind of
In
buy
context of
that.
the movie, though, there's a substantial age difference there.
There is an
between
age difference,
him
but I don't
and
know that it's
Alice.
more than like 15 years, and I think that maybe she's like in her 20s. It's possible that he's
I
an
don't think
early
she's that.
30s.
I think in context of this movie, she's like 16 to 18, if I had to guess, something like that.
I don't think she's 16.
I don't know.
I don't think she's under 18, because these are people, these aren't like all of the counselors. These are the administration staff. There's like 7 of them there to fix up the camp.
Yeah, no, I
a
literally think
cook.
they are all counselors plus the owner of the camp. I think
Yeah.
that is legit who they
I
are.
don't know, man. In my experience, like there are 16-year-old campers, and first of all, they don't look like that. Second of all, they don't show up that early to hammer nails and shit and do all that kind of thing. Like, I mean,
I think there's a
that's not
huge
true,
age
actually, but
gap.
I think there's a massive
There's an age gap,
and
but I
that's
don't think
the
it's
point. Yeah.
necessarily that massive.
I don't know
Also,
if
I also
it's
think that maybe we're
illegal.
also thinking that he's older than he could be. It's possible.
It's that stash.
He just looks like Hall and Oates. He looks like both.
even
Hall
if you
and
just
Oates.
like look at what's happening, he's touching her and she's not about it.
Well, and she wants to leave him, but also I don't know. But there's clear that there's a relationship there, because she's
Yeah.
like drawing him and shit.
He's also banging the waitress.
Yeah, 100%.
That's our own extrapolation for our.
No,
our
it's
For
you
our
can't
slash
debate
fiction.
it. It's
I'm
fact.
taking it to court.
It's fact.
okay, well, you better get in line. Apparently.
Undebatable. Also, we're gonna give him a tie. We're giving it. To
Yeah,
him.
a tire.
Dude, holy
Okay.
Jesus.
Can we get Kevin
Jorts
Bacon a
and
tire?
nothing else.
No, because damn.
Only jorts. Those
Well,
jorts are short as shit.
They are, but they're not as short as sleepaway camp shorts. Not by a long shot.
But were those jorts?
Yeah,
No.
some of them.
Some
were
of them
they?
were, but not the one I'm thinking of.
Well, yeah, I know what you're thinking of.
Yeah, you do.
You're thinking of the Baldies.
Hunt your
Oh
fucking
no, I
dreams.
wasn't, but that's horrible.
I don't know. So that guy's definitely got a tire, like maybe sexual deviance, but outside of that, I don't really
He
know
seemed
if
like
he's
we. I
got
don't think we
anything.
like get a lot of him that's not all business.
Yeah.
You know?
He's
And he's just kind of like making his fucking.
I don't
camp.
know. His little speech could be seen as pathetic if he's playing, like if he's this older guy who's kind of pushing on this young girl. And now at this point, he's her boss. And
That
he's
is
going
definitely
and
true.
he's
That
going
is
through her
100%.
sketchbook and maybe playing the little guilt card a little bit. That could be seen as pathetic.
He told her like
Or
hang out till
manipulation.
Friday, and then if you don't want to go, I'll drag him. I think that's good boss work, but I don't think touching the girl's face was good boss work.
No,
Then
that's
boss work is a
that's
term that I'm
good
coined
daddy
apparently
work, you know
because
what
I'm an
saying?
illiterate.
I know what you're
I
saying.
don't-
but-
Let's move on because I don't think there's enough there for a
I
full
don't-
cooter award.
Okay.
I don't
I
think
do
there's a
think
good.
there's
Okay.
like the only other person I can think of off the top of my head is, well, actually there's 2. There's Ralph and then there's the cop, Diggett.
Yeah, there's
Which I just
such
don't think there's
minor,
enough of that
minor
guy. I just think he's
Yeah.
a fucking insane character. But Ralph maybe, because that dude's hiding in fucking pantries.
Yeah, that yet here's one of the critiques of this film. Nobody has a whole lot of depth. And
No, yeah,
unfortunately, to
true.
be a cooter, you gotta have some
You don't
depth.
necessarily have to
You
have
gotta be
depth, but you gotta
really
be
deep.
you gotta be obviously a shitty person. And there's a difference between being like psychologically addled and being a fucking shitty person.
Yeah, I mean, to hit 3 of 5 points, you have to have some kind
It's a
of
little
depth.
pathetic. His looking attire is fine, I guess. He's wearing a Han
Maybe
Solo
it's
vest.
Cooter 3 since
I don't know.
1980.
man. Like I find, like I
Great.
said this during
I
the
think so.
live stream, but I find that the best way to deliver news to people is by bursting forth from a pantry and screaming, "I am a harbinger of God" or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think there's a strong
Arrogance,
cooler
maybe.
candidate.
Manipulation, no. Sexual deviancy, no. Looking attire, no.
A lot
It's
of
not a
people
good-
hit on attire. I'll say that.
Pamela
Yeah, she's got that thick ass
Oh,
sweater.
sweater.
It's
Yeah.
not there.
That's a great
It's okay.
sweater. I don't ding her for that sweater one bit. What's happening?
I forgot to plug my computer in.
Oh,
boy.
She's,
It's okay.
she's dying.
God.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we've got a cooter.
She's not
unless-
sexually deviant. She is maybe a little ignorant. I don't know. Manipulative. Yes, she lies several times. In
Yeah,
her short stint from going to believable liar to obviously insane person. Looking attire, normal. Sexual deviancy, no. Smug arrogance, not. Well, yeah. Patheticness, maybe. I don't think there's enough. I just don't think there's enough
yeah.
for
Pamela
anybody.
would be like light if we had one at all.
Yeah, I just don't think there's a strong enough candidate here. Nobody feels right.
Friday the
Yeah.
13th just doesn't make deep characters.
Yeah.
You gotta be deep to be a cooler.
We're going.
What
cooter-
about
cooter
the
free.
enchilada guy? He's a deep character.
No,
No.
his shits are deep, but he's not.
Oh, that's part of his character.
We're going cooter free since 1980.
Hey.
Let's go ahead
Emphasize
and
that.
we're letting our hair down. We're entering the social hour. We're talking about what we've been watching this week.
What are you doing
What
with
is
the box?
happening? That is clearly extended for no reason.
I just
One is sped up, one is slowed way the fuck down.
Hey,
sometimes shit just happens.
I don't think it just
Thank you
It
so
doesn't
much for
just
rolling with
happened
it
to me.
and pretending like I'm not gonna fix it.
You're
That's-
not
that's
gonna
the
fix
best
it.
part.
You're it's broken. It's
I
broken.
thought these were choices that were being made.
No, of course not. What have you people been
How
watching?
have
Randy, what have you been
How
watching?
much time have you got? Because it's been like 3 weeks.
You have
since I've
5
been-
minutes.
That's because you missed episodes.
Yeah,
right?
well, some people have lives.
How dare you?
Doubt it.
I have finished the series Dr. Death. I think it's a pretty good series. I think that most of my qualms with it were pretty well justified because it's got a good, like, strong message of, get second opinions is basically the crux of the issue there. It's a pretty well done series. I think it's not the perfect series. It's a little chintzy, but it's pretty good. I've watched the film True Stories with John Goodman and David Byrne film with the Talking Heads, and it's fucking amazing. I've watched it before. I mentioned it before. It's still great. I watched I Think You Should Leave, the new season. I watched a few episodes, and it's still fucking hilarious. It's a great show. I watched a show called Ted Lasso. I binged that. It's on Apple Plus or whatever the fuck. And that is a show with Jason Sudeikis about a football coach, a college football coach in America who is given a job in London as a soccer coach. And there's a lot of great fish out of water stuff. And it's also like one of the few feel-good comedies that I have allowed myself in many years. And one of the few that I think is successfully feel good and not just like trite in several years that I've seen. I recommend that one heavily. I listened to something called the Devil Within podcast, which is masquerading as a true crime podcast, but really kind of feels like legitimately repeating Satanic Panic talking points and trying to convince you that fucking like people are ritual killing or that things are, I don't know, it's dumb.
It might be possible, Randy.
Everything's possible, but this guy is absolutely conjecturing for most of the fucking thing, to the point where that is what most people respond to it with. Even people who believe that shit have argued that he brought no information. I do not like it. The Boy Behind the Door, I watched that recently. It's about some kids, these two kids who are kidnapped and brought to what is essentially a child trafficking location. I'm suddenly echoing in my ears. Good.
Hang on.
Gonna restart.
Yeah.
Wood grain.
Would grain
What's happening here?
be left
I'm fucked up. That's what's that.
Yeah, I know that.
It was the Malort
Or
pushed
took
you
me
over.
over the edge.
Fucking Alice had to bring you that bottle.
Oh,
Nothing like some, oh my God, what's that cleaner that he said?
Pine Sol.
Pine Sol.
Pine Sol. Oh, God.
That's not wrong.
It's not, and that's kind of what I hate.
It's like off. It's like the spray
I kind
off.
of want to put that in my Swiffer and see what it does.
Yeah.
Do you want more?
no.
No, you're
Do you want more?
No.
More Lord?
more.
No,
Lord.
More
no,
Lord.
no. We need to say for Randy's wedding.
Do
Finish
we?
off the rest of the bottle.
Randy's
All of a sudden,
fucking
that's a
wedding.
priority.
He literally said,
I
"My
was.
wedding."
I mean, I kind of wanted it.
No, there's enough for the wedding.
They're not full shots, maybe, but that's fine. It's not that big a deal, really.
I'll
I
order
also
another
just didn't
bottle
want
of
to take
water.
one.
If you base it on how much people want to drink, that might last the entire wedding.
I'm gonna
party.
make everyone there drink some.
Like,
We-
they'll all
sounds
get like
like we
one
need
tenth of
a
a shot.
fresh
and that's
bottle.
It's
it.
more than
Lord.
enough for anyone,
Yeah.
truly.
All right. Are you ready, Randy?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm gonna start with the boy behind the door.
I will point to you when you're
I watched The Boy Behind the Door, which is about two kids who were abducted and almost like a child sex trafficking thing. And it follows the kids. There's pretty good kid actors in that thing. Becky recognized one from This Is Us, which I have not kept up with, but she is like super into. And I would generally recommend that. It's not a deep movie, but it's a pretty good like abduction thriller horror with some unexpected turns. I would go with it. It's worth a look, and it's not super gruesome. Let's see. I watched the show called Schmigadoon, where Keegan Michael Key and an SNL actress whose name I'm forgetting are literally trapped in a musical that's kind of like Oklahoma, and they just stumble into it in the woods, and it's fucking weird. And I have only watched a few episodes, and I'm not super into it.
Yeah,
It's a
musicals.
weird one. I like musicals pretty good, but it's not hitting me right for some reason. I watched Best in Show again. It's still great. Fucking, it's great. I started reading House of Leaves. I'm only a little bit into it, but I am into it, and I'm hoping to get through it. But I'm a terrible reading comprehension person, and I've been drinking, so I can't even speak coherently about it. I watched The Big Short. It's still great. It's
The
a
Big
great
Shorty.
movie. The Big Shouty. And I've started Memories of Murder by Bong Joon-ho, and I have not yet finished it. It will be finished probably tonight or tomorrow, so I'll probably talk about that again. I sped read that shit for you.
Nice. Thank you. Juice. What you been watching?
Watch the new Suicide Club. Oh, no. Club. Suicide
Hi.
Club. Suicide Squad. I watched the new Suicide
Starting with the bad.
Squad. Damn. James, I had to think about it again. James Gunn film. It's not his best film. It's one of the better DC films, that's for sure. A lot of fun, little long, crazy gore, but fun overall in its premise. It was a fun watch, even with its length.
That's what she said.
One thing I've really been getting into and even like deep diving into, Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Like, where are you?
From the
Or
set-
what?
70s?
Yeah, okay, so OG Scooby-Doo, but also like going into its progression. So I've also watched a little
13
bit of
Ghosts.
13 Scooby-Doo and the 13
Fucking Vincent
Ghosts.
Price, baby.
Uh-huh.
And one, I think maybe my favorite
Mr.
iteration, a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Oh no.
I
shit.
like a pup
Okay.
named Scooby-Doo a lot.
Which I learned is some of the people who ended up like leaving and going to do Tiny Toons, which makes complete
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there was this huge thing in the 90s where they're taking classic
The fucking-
cartoons and they're making them like young or what, that was the thing. But it was the same people that was like kind of their deal. So a pup named Scooby-Doo is pretty great. They make Fred just a complete fucking dumbass. He always blames the one kid.
Red
It's-
herring.
Yeah, red herring. It's pretty adorable. And actually, It is one of the longest running Scooby-Doo's. The OG Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Only had 2 seasons. The first one was around like 12 to 18 episodes. I can't remember. The second one was only 8. Then they did like a Scooby-Doo movies where they had a bunch of these features like the Globetrotters
Oh,
and shit
yeah.
like that, where they made them
Yeah.
like 1 hour long episodes, but that wasn't Scooby-Doo,
Phyllis
Where Are
Diller.
You? Then they did Scrappy-Doo
Yeah.
and Scooby-Doo.
And that can fuck off,
Then they did then they did the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
which is kind of cool.
Then they
Except for
did a
Flintstones.
pup named
He did something
Scooby-Doo, and then it just kind of lingered. They did the movies. And I have been
Watch
then
Mysteries Inc. dog.
Mystery
Yeah,
Inc. is
that's like
fucking
the newest
great.
one. That
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the
I
newest
have
one, but it is.
been
I think
See,
it is, other than movies.
diving
I think there is another series since then, but go on.
into Scooby-Doo. And it's very interesting. And it's fun to follow along like these progressions, and also remember from a nostalgic like point of view, it's like, oh, I've experienced almost all of these growing up at some point, but didn't know the history and the progression and stuff like that. But also, I gotta give mad respect for this cartoon that laid the foundation. A lot of it is borrowing things from like classic horror, but to set this like foundation for kind of kids horror.
Yeah.
Like even in the original series, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Some of the things we see are, the big top, the clown, ghost, and in a circus, and then in a haunted amusement park, and yeah, just all of these things. You're like, man, are those the things that cemented some of the tropes, some of the ideas, the horror aspects to me as a
definitely
child? I
brought
think
kids
so.
to it. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So
please watch Mysteries Inc. and get back to us very soon.
okay, so I have seen I'm familiar with it, but I've just been in that a pup named Scooby-Doo, some baller shit. I love that just Fred, like Velma's adorable.
She is super adorable.
Fucking Fred is
she's
so
absolutely,
incompetent. I like as the series
what's her
progresses, they just refine these characters
Peppermint
a
Patty
little bit
and
more.
she like Velma in that show is a Peanuts character essentially.
Yeah.
Like she's
She's adorable.
fucking Marcy from Peanuts.
Yeah. So, anyways, I've been enjoying that quite a lot to get ready for football, and for other reasons, I've been watching Friday Night
that
Lights.
was related. I'm sorry.
Friday Night Lights, which is a like 2006 drama, which is like way WB, but it's like kind of
Watch
cool.
Ted Lasso, dog.
So, other than that, that's the only things that are popping in mind right now. Bob, what you been watching?
I picked up the latest release from Vestron, which was The Wraith from
Oh my
1986.
god,
Was it a good deal?
that's a crazy
It
fucking
was,
dumb
yeah.
movie.
Vestron titles are like between $12 and $15 now. Like
Deal.
they are a good deal, honestly. So this movie it's got Charlie Sheen in it. It's about this like
Market quality, that.
this like squad of kids that are all about like racing cars, and one of them like gets in a terrible accident and dies, and then all of a sudden there's like this
And he's the
mysterious
Wraith.
this mysterious like super fast
Race
car
Wraiths.
driving dude shows up into town like mysteriously, and he's got this one of a kind car, and like anything he drives his car into just fucking explodes, and like he's like unbeatable. He's the fastest motherfucker you've ever seen, and he's played by like Charlie Sheen. And
Oh, that's true in the bed as well.
yeah, that motherfucker explodes in the bed. It's a good time.
He's
It's like
certainly
set
fast.
out in the desert. There's like some goofy race sequences. There's like this like drive-in diner situation with like waitresses on skates and stuff. So it's got like a serious like vibe going for it that's kind of quaint and enjoyable. It's not scary in any way, but I found it to be like just a fun watch. I don't know, like kind of an experience. It's super goofy. It's very of the 80s, with like this space age fucking car driving around. I don't know. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Would recommend checking that out. I also watched the 4th season of Fuck That's Delicious, which is on Hulu. Action Bronson, the rapper, and a few of his friends just get to like travel around the country and the world actually, and eating wonderful things and talking about them. And they're just like so obviously stoned out of their minds. and just say like really dumb things, but they're like having such a great time
That is
and
by
and
far
hanging
the
out.
loosest.
That
Travel
sounds
show I have
familiar
ever
seen.
for
It does.
some reason.
It sounds familiar, except like that's their job and they make money at it. So
I
that's
wish, if only.
I don't know. I get a kick out of watching them. They like obviously love each other so much, and they just like they're like a little crew that just I don't know, got lucky, man.
Well,
Like,
that's different. I mean, we
hate
other.
we hate each
You
other.
made me drink my Lord. You better give me some time.
Yeah, they're drinking like fine wines, and here we are just drinking Malort.
We're drinking,
Well,
we're
you
drinking
know.
toilet fucking.
Potato,
Bro.
potato.
Uh-huh.
That is the grossest potato.
I definitely dig that shit though. Check out Fuck That's
Give me
Delicious
some of that potato.
on Hulu.
I've never heard anyone say potato.
Randy made me watch Bo Burnham's special on Netflix called Inside last night.
Was
and
it garbage?
My
Well,
brain was just like fucked
'cause
after
it's
watching it.
garbage.
No, it's fantastic. It's extremely
God damn,
good.
literally everyone keeps telling me to watch
Yeah.
that.
Well, I'm so sorry you're not on the Vanguard. How horrible
I'm
for
not
you.
cool
The
enough.
It's it's a heavy watch. Like
It
it
is
is
heavy.
not bust a gut like stand-up comedy. That's not what this is.
But it's smart as shit.
It's incredibly well written and like there's been a ton of thought put into it, and there's a lot of very heavy subject matter discussed. I don't know. After I couldn't stop like thinking about it. I was thinking about it all day today, even like I just can't stop thinking about it. It's incredibly good. I recommend it.
so that is so validating for me. You have no idea.
I'm not here to
Wait
validate.
till I.
But you
shit
are.
on it.
So thank you.
Uh-huh.
Accept my thanks.
So check that out if you're up for something a little,
Fucking hot take
little
from Randy
heavy. A
over
little
here.
heavy. Hot cakes, Randy. That's all. That's all I've been watching.
It's great.
Let's get into our final segment of the show, which is, of course, our hotline screams. Yeah.
Somebody didn't make us drink Malort, you'd probably be done by now.
Yeah, goddamn.
What an asshole that theoretical person is.
Betty's. Never mind.
Uh-huh. If you are listening and would like to call and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got one voicemail this week. We're going to hear from our courteous Canadian Cole. Let's hear what Cole has to say.
Hmm.
What you got to do, Cole, is you got to get a super secret apartment that you never tell your wife about ever at all. And then you get like an 80-inch flat screen TV up in that bitch with a 4K player, and you just fucking tell her you're working a lot of overtime and you
Yeah.
just go watch horror.
Make sure and
movies.
spend a lot of money at really fancy restaurants so she just thinks you're cheating on her.
That's yeah, you can do
not
that
let
too.
her know
Uh-huh.
about the horror. Though.
Yeah, that's the only way that you can do this.
No, really though, like first of all, it is completely believable that nobody's called us to ask for advice. I think that's self-evident. Second, Yeah, I don't know.
We
Like
drink,
this is
my lord.
you should definitely watch these movies yourself. Like I understand the impulse and I totally understand the situation is fraught for you to be able to even watch them at all. But I mean, honestly, carve yourself out some time. If you like, just have a conversation with your wife. Give me 2.5 hours every week to myself, even if it's just you go to bed before I do, and then you stay up late, you watch the thing you want to watch, you take it in, what little at a time you can. That's the only suggestion I have. Otherwise, you're going to be like moonlighting on the side, and I don't think that's going to be helpful for anybody if it's like an under the table sort of scenario.
Yeah, or stay up late or get up a little earlier. Like I just will get up at 5 o'clock, no matter what I have to do, because my body won't let me fucking sleep.
Yeah,
So I just like find myself watching stuff in the morning alone, anyways.
all of his selves.
All of myself. I don't know. It's an option for you if you're a morning person. Have some coffee, throw on a horror movie, and then go to work. I don't know.
Yeah. So Juice about to give you the best advice. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
God.
Wow.
Cole, we're gonna about to play the long con here.
Oh,
But here's what
there's
you
a
gotta
con
do.
involved.
Seriously, you got a young kid, you have a wife, neither of them like horror, but you are at a perfect time to start building a foundation that honestly, this is kind of like a long-term thing, but you're gonna build it up. So you're not gonna watch these films immediately, my guy. What you're doing is you're heading into spooky season. Even Walmart dropping their shit, it's appropriate now. I know that we've talked about this earlier. Seriously, this is true advice. Seriously, start with children or like accessible family themed horror.
Like Scooby-Doo, like Casper.
Yeah, like Scooby-Doo, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Movie wise, you got Casper, Hocus Pocus. Please watch Hocus Pocus with
Great
your
pumpkin.
family this,
Over the
Halloween
garden
season.
wall.
Over the
Yes,
garden
yes.
wall. Start introducing these slight things. And here's where you start to deviate.
That's a good-
As
that's
you
good
move out of Halloween season, even things that are seen as like
Scooby-Doo.
horror within, like Alien, that's like sci-fi. Once you can kind of set that foundation, don't just go straight into the horror. Yeah,
Well, we
start
don't
to
know
kind
what
of.
his wife is.
It's
open to
true,
either.
but there's like
there's crossovers.
fillers.
Mm.
Oh, wait.
If she likes comedy,
Thrillers,
watch
yeah.
Shaun of
There's
the Dead. If she
fillers.
likes,
Oh my God.
if she likes sci-fi, watch
Like
Alien. If
yeah,
she likes-
Yeah.
Seven
Westerns,
Silence
watch
of the
Bone
Lambs.
Tomahawk.
Yeah, there's
Jaws.
things that can start to blend this.
Yeah. If she likes thrillers, watch Silence of the Lambs. If you need to, just go to the top of this is good advice, by the way. I'm building off your idea.
Mhm.
Credit where it's due. So like Silence of the Lambs, that's an Oscar-winning movie. That
Yeah.
won Best Picture. Just say that and be like, this is one Best Picture.
Yeah.
If you want a date night where we watch a movie together,
Sure.
if she doesn't dig it, that's fine. But you can also do what Becky and I do. Even though she likes horror movies, is an exchange night where we each pick a movie
Mhm.
when we have time. Like if you have a date night that you can do this on, because I know you have a kid, each of you pick a movie that you have seen or that you want to see and the other person definitely has not, and you kind of do a cultural exchange. I've done this with friends, but Becky and I do this as a couple. Like she'll show me things that I've never seen before and I'll show her things she's never seen before, and she may not always like it, I may not always like it, but we always each get something that we enjoy that night, and then we do other things.
I would caution that. I think that's a good
Yeah.
idea, but I would caution that still you gotta ease. Like, don't just go like we're
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't
watching
go to
some crazy shit
Chainsaw
because that's
Massacre right out of the gate.
shit. Yeah,
You want to choose something that you think that person will like.
yeah, you got to get into something where it's not completely
like.
brutal, but it's still, has the acclaim or something like that you can kind of ease in and get the taste of like the suspense, get into where it's, but it's not keeping you up at night. It's not giving you nightmares. It's not giving you crazy, like, people are being tortured or crazy. Like, ease it in.
And if you all else fails and you find a situation where like she's gonna have nightmares based on fucking
yeah.
everything.
Some
or
people don't like
whatever.
ghosts.
Some people
Some
just don't like
people
horror
don't like
movies, and
demonic
they're
shit,
wrong,
yeah.
but they're fine, and they can have that opinion, and they should not be forced to continue to watch them. But then you make some sort of agreement amongst the two of you about
Yeah.
you being able to spend some time, indulging yourself.
True.
And then she can indulge herself in things that some other kind of film that you don't share with her or cross over with her on.
But I genuinely, oh my God, damn.
Tight.
I think
Lord.
you can create the bridge. Like they said, Shaun of the Dead, there are things that you
Yes,
can, even a lot of people who are like, don't like horror in quotations, can accept zombie shit. So like even comedies, Shaun of the Dead, Walking Dead, stuff like that, you can start to bridge the gap and then get into things like A Quiet Place, which more,
There's accessible horror films
there
in the world.
is more accessible horror. So
Little Shop of Horrors.
start low with the spooky season coming up. Start with some kid stuff, some cartoons,
Yeah.
some really family accessible stuff. Once that
And reserve the
season
hard
dips
drugs for
out,
yourself until she's ready.
yeah, play the classics. So this is really like a 6 to 12 month step program that we're creating here.
Yeah.
But I think it will work, or it has
Yeah.
the best potential to
Bare minimum
work.
over years, your daughter, or I think you said daughter,
Just kid.
okay, your child will develop an appreciation for at least a couple of those spooky things that you show her,
Yeah.
if only for nostalgic reasons. And over time, you might be able to share that interest with her, if not your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could
Team
even
up against
squeeze in
her.
some like you could squeeze in some Goonies or Gremlins,
Yeah,
or you
those
got
are entry
Adam's
levels.
Family,
Yeah.
live action and cartoon, even some like Tim Burton stuff, like maybe
Oh, yeah.
Beetlejuice, or
Nightmare on
getting some
Elm
of
Street, or
that.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare on Elm
I'm
Street.
literally looking at Nightmare on Elm
For your
Street
child.
on
Yeah.
the wall.
Yeah,
So,
so I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there that's like not super heavy.
Yeah.
hitting,
Corpse Bride.
which that only
Disney Channel horror movies are also available.
I feel like that-
Halloween Town.
I feel like that only solves half your problem. Like if you're trying to watch new horror movies,
Sure.
then
Yeah.
that's not really gonna help.
But
you.
it's the long
I
con.
agree.
It's a
like,
long cut. Yeah.
you may not get to watch, Possessor Uncut right away,
Monster
or the new
House.
Candyman or whatever, based on this. You might not be going out on date nights to see new horror movies right away, but over time, that will build. I think that's a smart idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good question. Yeah, just have your wife call in. We'll talk to her.
And
We'll
speaking-
scare her straight. It'll be
Speaking
fine.
of
Oh,
spooky season,
Tell her call Soju.
Go ahead, Randy.
No, that'll end badly for you. Yeah, speaking of spooky season, I had a prompt for this week. I was curious about this, and we kind of touched on this on the Slack channel, but I want to know if anybody has already or is just about to break the seal on their spooky season viewing, because we're right on the cusp here ourselves. I know Soju has mentioned at least 3 times today how much he wants to get into his fall viewing. Rob has mentioned something similar, at least since I've been here. And I have come very, very close to just saying fuck it and watching Over the Garden Wall for the first time this season.
Wait.
But I gotta wait. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's too hot. It's too much beach weather right now to get into it. That's how I feel about it. But I know there are people out there that do not feel that way and have already broken the seal. I want to know if that's you. I want to know if you're ready to roll on that, and if you are or are about to, what is it you're breaking the seal with, why, and things like that. We've asked similar questions before, but I think we're so early in the season that I'm just curious who's willing to throw caution to the wind here.
Yeah. Honestly, for me tonight and like today, we went to the beach, we watched Friday the 13th. This was kind of the nail in the coffin for summer for me. Kids are going back to school. I went to Walmart last night. I posted pictures all over the Slack. Dude, Walmart, like it looked like they just set up last night. It was like happy fall. It literally, the Halloween candy with the orange boxes and the jack-o'-lanterns and the bats and shit. It is after tonight, like this is it. I know we said after July 4th, but like this was the nail in the coffin for summer for me, and like I'm moving on. It's time to move on.
Time for the pumpkin chuckin.
Time to get it. We got 2 full months.
Tight. Yeah, let us know if you are already dipping your balls in the Halloween season. What are you watching and why? Hit us up at 904-638-3231. That does it for us this week at Straight Shilling. We're going to be back next week with a brand new episode. As always, we're going to be talking about the winner of the August poll pick, which was Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me from 1992.
Let's rock.
Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter, STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of our social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join in on the fun. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling. We did it. We made it.